My name is Xia Yuan, and 1 minute I'm sweating like a pig in my apartment because the power went out during a heat wave, cursing my landlord's ancient wiring, and the next minute, beam, white light, lights out, and I wake up in some bushes like a discount Ice Guy protagonist. I open my eyes. No AC, no apartment, just creepy tall trees and some sad little grass huts. My brain goes, bro, did I die? Is this heaven? Why does heaven look like a camping trip gone wrong? Then a little glowing message pops into my head like a system notification, and I learn the depressing truth. I got yeeted to a world called the Land of Divine Grace, and I'm now a Lord in Training. Cool title. Except apparently I have to babysit some glowing altar for 30 days or something bad happens. Nobody tells me what bad means. My gut says bad means dead. Lord trial. Begin, says a robot voice in my skull. Thanks, I hate it. I check my kingdom. Spoiler. It's 3 broken huts and a mystical dinner plate. I mean, a stone altar. Very impressive real estate. Naturally, step 1 of being a lord is getting some troops, because you can't be a lord with 0 followers. That's just guy in the woods. I walk up to the altar, it lights up like a slot machine, and boom, I win the jackpot of mediocrity. 5 militia. 5 guys holding sticks. Sorry, wooden spears. Their fashion sense is peasant chic. Still, 5 ragged dudes with pointy sticks is 5 more bodyguards than I had 10 minutes ago, so I'll take it. I check their stats. 1 star. Common quality. Skills, none. Talents, none. Basically NPCs you'd skip past in a video game tutorial. I test them out and honestly, stronger than me, unemployed, gym-skipping human that I am. But here's the catch. These guys have the IQ of a houseplant. Tell them, patrol, or stand there, fine. Tell them anything with more than 1 step, and they freeze like Windows 95. And they forget everything I teach them every single time. Groundhog Day, but with spears. Bored, I check my little system menu. Just 2 buttons, personal info and chat. Chat? Who am I chatting with? Ghosts. I open it and immediately regret it because it's absolute chaos. Total strangers screaming into a group chat like it's Black Friday at Walmart. Some guy demanding to know if this is still Earth. Someone else offering $1 million to whoever gets him home. Buddy, there's no Wi-Fi here, let alone banking. One dude claiming he's literally Qin Shi Huang, first emperor of China, and asking for Cash App donations. Someone else complaining their starter troops are skeletons that smell like their grandma. Another guy got goblins that reek so bad, he can smell them from 15 feet away. One poor soul got slimes. Bouncy, useless, adorable, doomed. Compared to skeletons and stinky goblins, I realize 5 plain militia is basically a W. Small victories, people. I back out and check my personal stats. Name, Xia Yuan. Title, Lord in Training. Territory, unnamed. I fix this immediately. I name it Xia Yuan because I'm destined for the stars and the sea. Very poetic, very deep. Okay, fine. I just couldn't think of anything better. Then I spot it. My special talent. Power of evolution. I can upgrade my troops like it's a mobile game with microtransactions, except free. I have exactly 1.0 evolution point for human units. I about lose my mind. This is a cheat code. Finally, the universe throws me a bone after ruining my air conditioning. While obviously I get a broken power, I say to absolutely nobody, doing my best smug main character pose. I mean, look at me. I'm just built different. I activated immediately because patience is for people who didn't just get Ice Guyed. A white glow appears over my hand, and little ones pop up above each militia's head like they're all queued for a software update. I walk up to one guy, reach toward him, and the glow just casts itself onto him before I even touch him. He glows, grows taller, buffer, upgrades his rags into actual leather armor, and swaps his pathetic stick for a real iron spear. Congratulations, sir, you've been patched to version 2.0, Spearman. The system pings, Militia, 1 star, evolved into Spearman, 2 star. And get this, dude's whole personality changes. He looks around, touches his new armor like, wait, I have ABS now, then looks at me and goes, Lord, stumbling over the word like he just learned English yesterday. You can talk? I ask, way too excited, like a kid who just taught his dog to sit. Can, he says, slow and choppy, like his brain is buffering. Still progress. I run some tests, and this spearman absolutely destroys regular militia in strength, speed, and general not being useless. He even learns commands after one try instead of forgetting like his buddies. His new skill? Thrust. Very creative name, very stabby. Feeling like a proud parent, I decide it's time for a field test. I gather my little squad, one upgraded spearman, for regular militia, and I the treeline just outside my kingdom. I hesitate for a second because, unknown forest, unknown monsters, unknown death. But then I remember I've got a 24-hour newbie protection zone, so nothing can actually attack me yet. We'll be fine, I tell myself, definitely not sweating. It's like 3 steps away. What could go wrong? I order a regular militia to punch. Spear, a nearby tree with all his might. After a bunch of hits, the tree has a few sad little scratches. Groundbreaking. Then I send in Spearman with his fancy new thrust skill. He walks up, spear raised, ready to demolish this poor innocent tree, and just freezes there like a broken NPC. I'm about to ask what's wrong when he turns to me, stammering. Don't know how. Okay, so my spearman just told me he doesn't know how to use the skill he apparently already has. Cool. Love that for me. I'm standing there like, buddy, you literally have the skill equipped. How do you not know how to use it? But then I look at his big, dumb, confused face, and I realize, I don't know either. Nobody handed me a manual. So we just stand there, staring at each other. 2 idiots and a tree. Eventually my eyeballs start drying out from not blinking. So I do the only thing a great leader can do in this situation. I hype him up with 0 actual information. Ahem. You're a mature spearman now. You gotta believe in yourself. I believe in you. You've got this, champ. Understood, he says, and I swear he lights up like I just gave him a Red Bull 4 drip. Then he goes back to poking the tree like a guy trying to parallel park for the first time. Turns out, plot twist, skills aren't just unlock and go, like some cheesy JRPG. You gotta figure them out yourself through pure trial and error, like a caveman discovering fire. Kind of ruins the, this is definitely a game, theory I had going, not gonna lie. Since I clearly can't help him discover fire any faster by hovering, I go check the group chat instead. Real productive leadership right there. 10 minutes later, boom. A loud crack. I look up just in time to see my man Spearman glowing with pale blue energy, spear raised, and he absolutely obliterates the tree. Like, punches clean through it. Tree's got a hole in it like Swiss cheese. Snap. The power. I yell, very professionally. Spearman, still catching his breath, goes, Lord. Can still improve, show off. He does it again, faster and stronger. I'm literally clapping like I'm at a Cirque du Soleil show. Naturally, since he's clearly the smartest unit I own, low bar, but still, I decide he deserves a real name. Can't have my future general running around called Spearman 1, that's just tragic. I go through some real genius naming options out loud, talking to myself like a lunatic while this poor guy just watches. Spear 1? No, too basic. Xia Spear? Xia Soldier? Missing something. Then it hits me. Pure inspiration, pure genius. And I announce, very dramatically, that ancient legends say spearmen have the luck of Xia Yuan himself. So I'm just gonna swap one letter so it's totally not copying him, and name my guy, Xia Yuan, basically Spear Yuan. Very legally distinct. Very original. He doesn't understand 90% of what I just said, but he catches his new name and immediately bows like I just knighted him. Thank you, Lord, adorable. A star is born. I tell him to stop training for now. Priorities, buddy. We're not exactly living in a 5-star safety zone. And instead put him and the militia on lumberjack duty since he already destroyed a perfectly good tree. Might as well repurpose the wreckage to fix our sad little huts. Meanwhile, I sit back and supervise, because that's what leadership is. I did not come all this way to a fantasy world to start doing manual labor. Name one successful lord in history who swings an axe himself. I'll wait. I check the chat again for entertainment, and, oh good, panic has officially begun. Some guy reports giant red-eyed spiders outside his territory, level way above starting units. Everyone's collectively losing their minds. Someone suggests just self-destructing your altar if you're doomed anyway. Great. Love that energy. Very reassuring. I make a mental note. If my area turns out to be a spider death pit, I am absolutely rage-quitting my own kingdom too. I close the chat right as a massive crash echoes behind me. Turns out my boys finished chopping the tree. Impressive. I praise them, tell them to rest up because we're going exploring soon. And that's exactly when I glance toward the tree line and spot a pack of short, green, ugly little creatures creeping toward my territory. Enemies. Everyone up, I scream, in my most heroic possible voice, from a safe distance. Xia Yuan instantly snaps into battle stance, ready to charge in like an action hero, and I have to physically grab him before he does something insane. Wait, I say, holding him back. Rule number 1 of surviving. Know your enemy before you fight it. Doesn't matter how weak they look, scout first, then decide. He nods like he mostly gets it. I let go, confident my wisdom has been absorbed into his spear brain. Turns out the ugly green things are goblins, levels slightly above our starting troops, 10 of them. But hey, we've got protection zone privileges, and my man Xia Yuan should be manageable. Xia Yuan, hearing, should be manageable, immediately tries to charge again. I yank him back again. This kid, not like that, I groan. Use your advantages. We have a protection barrier they literally cannot cross, and you have a long spear. So stand inside the barrier and poke them from safety. Genius. His eyes go wide like I just revealed the secrets of the universe. Understood, he says, actually understanding this time. I, meanwhile, retreat even further back because, call me a coward, but I did not survive an ice-sky heat stroke just to get goblin mobbed on day 1. A wise leader knows when to observe from a safe distance. A very, very safe distance. The goblins spot us, grin their ugly grins like they've already won, and charge, only for the front goblin to slam face first into an invisible wall like a bug hitting a windshield. Another one swings its club at the barrier and gets launched backward like it insulted someone's mother. The rest just stand there, utterly confused, like they just discovered physics for the first time. And that's exactly when Xia Yuan and the militia march up to the edge of our little safe zone, spears ready, completely unbothered. All right, battle plan time. I'm no general, but I've seen enough movies to fake it. We're outnumbered, so focus fire, I yell from my very safe spot behind everyone. Xia Yuan, stab the one in front. Militia, pair up, left and right, and honestly, for a bunch of guys with the intelligence of a toaster, my militia actually pull this off. Xia Yuan skewers one goblin's skull clean through. 2 militia pairs follow up and pop 2 more heads like piñatas. 3 goblins down before they even know what's happening. I take a mental note. Guess monsters aren't some abstract game health bar. They just die like normal creatures when you stab their brain. Good to know. Filing that away for later. The remaining goblins finally snap out of their confusion and start fighting back for real. Xia Yuan tanks it like a champ behind our invisible territory shield. Goblins keep whacking the barrier and just bouncing off it like idiots hitting a bug zapper, while Xia Yuan casually reaches out and finishes off a wounded one, then hops right back to safety. Total hit and run genius. Militia, meanwhile, are about as tactical as a brick, so I just keep barking simple orders. All 4 of you, gang up on that one. And somehow it works. One by one, the goblin squad gets thinned out until they finally realize this fight isn't going their way and start booking it. Don't let them escape, I scream, way too invested for a guy standing safely behind 6 other people. Xia Yuan goes full anime protagonist mode, dashing in, smacking one goblin down, then immediately chasing the next instead of finishing the first, like he actually remembered what cutting off retreat means. Between him and the militia mop-up crew, all 10 goblins end up as fertilizer. Combat over. I stroll out like I did something, staring at 10 dead goblins. No PTSD, no nausea, just mild disgust at the smell, which is exactly as bad as advertised in the chat. Thanks for the warning, random internet stranger. Then the loot starts glowing out of the corpses like I just cleared a dungeon in some pay-to-win mobile game. I scoop up little glowing crumbs called soul crystal dust, apparently the currency of this entire world, used for recruiting units, leveling up, even slow healing injuries in a pinch. Basically fantasy protein powder mixed with cash. And then, jackpot. 1 drop is a recruitment spirit orb, which basically means free random unit, no questions asked, first fight, and I'm already pulling loot like I've got main character luck. I take a moment to appreciate my own greatness. Back at base, I slap that orb some dust onto the altar and cross my fingers, praying out loud for literally anything except another goblin. Boom, skeleton soldier. Small, bony, holding a rusty sword like it borrowed it from a pawn shop. Honestly matches the chat description perfectly. My grandma could probably beat this thing in a fight. But hey, free unit is free unit. I check my evolution power and discover I've got a fresh undead evolution point sitting there just for unlocking a new unit type. Naturally, I immediately slap my glowing evolution hand onto the poor skeleton like I'm some divine surgeon. He upgrades into a full skeleton warrior, taller, buffer, actual armor, actual sword, and a new skill called Chop, riveting name. Truly poetic. I name him on the spot. Since he's bones plus spooky undead vibes, I combine the words for, bone, and underworld into something way cooler sounding, Minghai. Boom, mysterious skeleton warrior identity secured. Since he's fresh and clueless, I assigned Xia Yuan to teach him the skill, because apparently I run a daycare now. Watching a guy who stutters try to teach sign language to a skeleton who can't even talk is possibly the funniest thing I've witnessed since arriving in this world. While they work on that, I check chat again for laughs. Except this time, chaos has fully erupted. People are getting jumped by wolves, ambushed by monsters, and half the group is furiously blaming one dude named Zhang San for suggesting everyone scout outside. Never change, internet. Always need a scapegoat. Honestly though, I get it. Everyone's terrified. The 24-hour safety clock is ticking, and yelling at a stranger online is cheaper therapy than actually dealing with your problems. I quietly close the chat before the doom spiral infects my own good mood. Eventually, crack. Turns out my two goofballs actually pulled it off. Tree, sliced clean in half. Xia Yuan's practically glowing with pride, patting Minghai on the shoulder like a proud older brother, while Minghai just clacks his jaw excitedly like the world's happiest skeleton. Somehow this bag of bones has more personality than most humans I know. I hand Xia Yuan all our leftover soul dust to level up, except turns out leveling isn't instant either. It's some slow absorption process, like fantasy meditation. Cool. One more thing that isn't as convenient as I hoped. While he meditates, I set Minghai to lumberjack duty, because unlike humans, skeletons apparently don't get tired, don't eat, and basically never stop working. Which naturally makes my brain immediately start scheming. Wait, if I get an army of tireless, foodless skeleton workers, I could build an entire economy off free labor. I catch myself mid-thought. Nope. That's some straight-up evil capitalist overlord thinking. Reel it back in, buddy. 2 hours later, Xia Yuan finally levels up. Testing shows a small stat boost, nothing like the jump evolution gives. But hey, progress is progress. Before heading out again, I check my evolution points and notice something interesting. They build up over time per unit, roughly 0.1 points every 2 hours per unit. Feels good finally cracking that mystery. Knowledge is power, baby. With a fresh point banked, I immediately evolve another random militia into a spearman. Except this new guy, despite evolving, is basically mute and slow compared to Xia Yuan and Minghai, taking way longer just to learn the same skill. Which raises a fun question. Is intelligence after evolution random, or are my first two just unusually gifted? Mysteries for another day. Feeling adventurous, I take the squad exploring in 3 directions. West gets me a nice fruit grove, free food, nice, plus a surprise ambush from a black jackal that tries jumping my skeleton. Except Xia Yuan and Minghai combo it into paste before I even finish panicking. Loot's underwhelming for a level 4 monster, but hey, free dinner is free dinner. South is quiet except for a pack of stronger brown wolves, which I wisely decide not to poke. East though? East is an absolute nightmare zone. Aggressive monsters that fight to the death instead of running like the goblins did. After surviving 2 rough encounters and getting my squad banged up, I decide discretion is the better part of not losing my only employees and retreat back home before something eats somebody important. Because if my army wipes, guess who's stuck crying alone in a haunted forest with 0 bodyguards? Yeah, hard pass. Great, I killed a bunch of monsters today and got a nice pile of dust, but not a single new recruit orb. Cosmic joke, apparently. Still, I split up what I had, patched up my troops, dumped the rest into Xia Yuan and Minghai for leveling. I figured I was done for the day since dusk was creeping in, and wandering around in the dark sounded like a great way to become monster dinner. Then I went to cook some of that black jackal meat and realized I have no fire. Genius move, me. And thinking about it more, lighting a fire at night in a brand new, unprotected world sounded like sending every monster in a 5-mile radius a personal invitation to dinner, where I'm the main course. So, sadly, raw fruit it was. Living the dream out here. While munching on berries like a sad squirrel, I checked the chat. The mob had finally moved on from blaming that one guy and was now onto a new group hobby, comparing miseries. Turns out plenty of people forgot their units need food too. Some poor guy only had a river and 0 fruit nearby. Another had wolves camped right outside his base. Everyone competing for who's suffering more, and honestly, reading it made my pile of berries feel like a 5-star meal. Perspective is a beautiful thing. Before the sun fully vanished, I rushed my squad to the fruit grove for one last supply run. Once night fell, I noticed something wild. This world has 2 moons, one of them looking suspiciously off-color. Weird planet, weird sky. Sure, why not? Instead of sleeping right away, I put my healed-up troops to work digging a shallow ditch around the base and lining it with sharpened stakes, because in a few hours our safety bubble disappears, and I refuse to just wait around unprotected like a fool. Simple trap, sure, but hey, something is better than nothing. Then everyone went to rest, except Minghai, obviously, since skeletons don't sleep, so guard duty was his forever. I picked the one decent hut for myself and called it the Lord's Manor, even though it's really just a slightly bigger shack with better bragging rights. I peeked at chat one last time before bed, saw nothing but doom and gloom, and shut it immediately. Nothing productive comes from doom scrolling in a fantasy apocalypse. Lights out. Little did I know, once I passed out, Xia Yuan snuck out to chat with Minghai like a couple of gossiping roommates, celebrating something together before both quietly started grinding levels through the night, like tryhard gamers who skip sleep for XP. Morning came, sun rose, and I actually woke up feeling refreshed for once. Bed's lumpy, but hey, free real estate. Walked outside to find Minghai and my other new spearmen training on a log, with Xia Yuan supervising like a proud drill sergeant, while my 3 militia stood around looking as useful as decorative lawn ornaments. Naturally, I was moved. Future general secretly training and teaching others? What a guy. Very inspiring. Almost brought a tear to my eye. Checked their stats though, and wait, only level 3? Turns out leveling costs double the resources each time you level up, and takes longer too. Basically a pay-to-win game, except the pay is grinding actual time. Also, apparently different units absorb the dust at different speeds, since Minghai took longer than Xia Yuan. Still trying to figure out if that's a skeleton thing or just bad luck. Checked my evolution points. Humans sitting pretty at 4.5, undead crawling along at 0.8. Did some quick napkin math and confirmed. Yep, exactly 0.1 points per unit every 2 hours, like clockwork. Knowledge is power, baby. Since leveling is slow no matter what, I decided evolving is still the fastest way to get strong, so I held off using points on random militia and started saving up to max out Xia Yuan instead. Priorities. Turn my best unit into an unstoppable killing machine first, worry about the rest later. With protection time running low, I figured I'd use the last stretch to scout north, the only direction I hadn't checked yet. Grabbed some fruit for breakfast, living the fancy life, and headed out with the squad. Along the way, I gave my usual pep talk to my one guy and one skeleton. Ambush when you can. If the enemy's too strong, survival comes first. No heroics, no charging in like idiots. We survive. We thrive. Got it. Look, half of that speech was for them. Half was me hyping myself up. I've got a literal cheat code power. If I just play it safe and let time do the work, greatness is inevitable. Patience is my superpower. Stood, Xia Yuan said. Minghai just went, clack clack, which I've decided means agreement. These two have officially been fully brainwashed into my survive first, ask questions later cult. Spotted a pack of wolves nearby, filed that away for later cleanup, not now, just scouting. Kept moving and stumbled onto a mysterious cave entrance in a dirt mound, looking suspiciously like a mine. Very tempting. Very, adventure awaits. Also very, definitely how side characters die in Chapter 1. After way too much internal debate, I chickened out and marked the location for later because losing a single unit right now would genuinely wreck me emotionally. Baby steps. Then, sweet, glorious sound, running water. A whole river. Real, drinkable, non-fruit-based hydration. I nearly cried. Sent my 2 smart units to double-check it wasn't poisoned or cursed or anything. And once confirmed safe, I face-planted straight into that river and drank like a man who just crossed a desert. Then, since I hadn't bathed since arriving in this world and basically qualified as a biohazard, I hopped in for a full rinse and told the troops to clean up too, mostly because they were covered in monster guts, though it honestly doesn't matter since evolving refreshes their gear and grime anyway. Small victories still count though. Right as I was ready to head back, feeling refreshed and vaguely optimistic about life, a massive brown bear came charging out of the tree lean straight at us. Level 5. 2-star quality. Bigger threat than anything we'd fought yet. I yanked my units in front of me. Very brave positioning, very heroic, definitely not self-preservation, and shouted the warning. Xia Yuan locked eyes on it, dead serious. I did some quick mental math, sweating slightly, hoping my little army wasn't about to become bear food. Turns out I worried for nothing. Xia Yuan struck first, spear glowing, straight through the bear's paw before it could even swing properly. My other spearman followed up with another stab, and Minghai swooped in with a clean chop that literally severed the bear's injured paw. The bear, now missing a hand and absolutely furious, went feral, swinging wildly, getting dodged effortlessly by Minghai, and taking 2 more hits in the process. I held the militia back, because let's be honest, they'd last about half a second against an enraged bear, and I'm not in the business of losing my weakest, most replaceable resources for nothing. Very strategic. Definitely not just protecting the food and dust income factory. Finally, mid-rage, the bear opened itself up for one clean shot, and Xia Yuan took it, driving his spear straight through its eye socket and out the other side of its skull. The bear dropped dead on the spot. And just like that, my squad took down a level 5, 2-star monster without losing a single unit. Not bad for a guy who started this adventure sweating through a blackout with 0 AC. Spear pulls out clean, dripping with a gross mix of blood and bear juice. I stare at the dead bear, completely stunned that a fight I'm mentally prepared to be a nightmare just ended in like 10 seconds. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Xia Yuan, I knew that name was destiny. I gush, way too proud of myself for picking a good name off the top of my head. I hand out compliments to Minghai and the other spearmen too, because I'm generous like that when it costs me nothing. Then loot time, and holy cow, this bear was basically a walking treasure chest. Not just soul dust, but a 2-star recruitment orb and an actual building blueprint. I nearly do a little dance right there in the woods. Bear, my man, my guy, my absolute hero, I say to the corpse, completely sincere. You gave your life so generously. I promise I'll treat your remains with the utmost respect. Translation, we're eating you tonight. The blueprint turns out to be for an arrow tower, auto-attacking defense. No build time needed, just dump in materials and boom, instant tower. Exactly what my sad little 3-hut kingdom desperately needs. I practically thank the bear a second time. On the walk home I swing by that wolf pack from earlier, clean them up for good measure, scoop up more dust, and head back feeling like an absolute unstoppable warlord. Until I try using the tower blueprint, and it just says, cannot use right now. Cool. Cool. Mysterious system nonsense strikes again. I poke at it a few times like an idiot mashing a broken vending machine before giving up. Naturally, I go recruit again, because why not throw more dust into the RNG machine? Get another skeleton warrior. Apparently my altar is secretly a skeleton vending machine at this point. Except this one has 0 skills and is dumber than my regular spearman. Turns out the poor guy needs way more evolution points than Minghai did, like he's an incomplete unit waiting to be finished. Weird, but I file it under mysteries I'll never solve, and hand him off to Minghai for training, where Minghai immediately gets confused why his new bony buddy is dumber than a rock. Skeleton bonding time, truly wholesome. I sit back and start planning like a real strategist. West and south are decent. East is a death zone. North's got a sketchy cave I'm avoiding. Priority 1. Get that tower built and slap it down east once it actually works. Right as I'm mid-genius plan, Xia Yuan yells that he actually got fire started from rubbing sticks together like a caveman. I'm honestly shocked it worked. We roast up the bear meat, and let me tell you, bear paw, no seasoning, slightly undercleaned fur and all, still tastes incredible when you're starving. 10 out of 10 would eat mystery bear paw again. Minghai tries to guilt me into sharing by pouting like a skeleton toddler. So I cave and hand him a skewer, even though he's got no stomach, and everything he eats just falls right through his ribs. Waste of good meat, but the happy little clacking noises he makes are almost worth it. After eating, I keep an eye on my evolution points, and once they hit 5, I call Xia Yuan over for testing. I get a genius idea. What if units evolve without gear, so I can basically scam free equipment every time? Big brain moment. Except turns out the system isn't that easy to cheese, and taking off his gear just makes evolution cost more points. Devastating. My one shot at exploiting a bug, gone. So I let him keep his gear and evolve him properly. He upgrades into a full elite spearman. Chainmail, helmet, fancy decorated spear, the whole deal. And suddenly he's not stuttering anymore. Talking like a normal person for the first time. Turns out leveling up his intelligence basically graduated him to functioning adult status. He even learns a brand new skill almost instantly this time. Some kind of launch you into the air move. Just as we're wrapping up testing, a system voice booms through my skull announcing that the 24-hour protection period is officially over, and it's time to check something called the territory heart, back at my hut. Walking in, I find this glowing white crystal just floating there like it teleported in from a sci-fi movie. I touch it, and suddenly a wall of information dumps into my brain about the actual point of this whole world. Apparently, there's some corrupting evil plant root thing spreading around, twisting monsters into mindless killing machines, and it's my job to go find the one near my territory and wipe it out for rewards. Classic setup. I've read enough of these stories to know there's definitely some bigger villain behind this, probably strong enough to make the world's guardian spirit sweat, and probably watching whoever clears the most of these things. But hey, ignoring it just means getting corrupted myself, so not exactly optional. Shaking off the creeping dread, I check my territory stats instead. Population 0, 3 basic huts, and a laundry list of upgrade requirements that honestly don't look too crazy. Then I notice a little gold question mark in the corner, tap it, and discover something huge. Territory size limits are gone. Starting now, as long as I can hold it, literally any patch of this entire world could be mine. I get a whole info dump about buildings, how leveling up unlocks basic ones, how blueprints work in 2 flavors, one-time use or permanent unlock, quality tiers, level caps tied to my base level, all that fun bureaucratic fantasy nonsense. I read it twice, itching to start building. Then, of course, right as I'm about to get to it, another notification smacks me in the face announcing a territory leaderboard just dropped. Could you not just dump everything on me at once? I grumble, already annoyed at how chatty this system is. I open it anyway. Top spots go to places with names like Radiant Domain and Juju's Territory, and mine, Xia Yuan, sitting comfortably at rank 41. Meanwhile, some absolute legends named their kingdoms after memes, weird colors, or straight-up embarrassing early 2000s edgy nonsense. Guys, you can't rename these. Some of you are about to regret every life choice you've ever made. And regret they do. Chat instantly turns into a support group for people who thought, funny name now, no consequences later, and are now watching their cringe broadcast to the entire server in real time. Absolutely beautiful chaos. I did not participate. I have dignity. Barely. Meanwhile, I'm stuck wondering how I'm only 41st when I've got a literal cheat code power and a 3-star unit tearing through bears like tissue paper. Turns out, plot twist, rank isn't based on how strong you are. It's based on buildings and unit count. Basically a spreadsheet flex, not a power flex. Which explains everything and also relieves me deeply, because for a second there I thought I was somehow mediocre. Couldn't be me. Feeling motivated, I head out to actually build stuff. Choose a storage warehouse first since it's cheap and useful, then send my skeleton and militia squad out logging and mining while my main duo does other work. Watching Minghai casually one-shot a tree trunk with his big scary chop skill while my other, skill-less skeleton struggles for a solid minute against the same tree is honestly the funniest thing I've seen all day. Nature is healing. Materials roll in fast since wood and stone are basically unlimited around here, and once I toss in the dust, The warehouse blueprint lights up and starts materializing on a timer like some kind of magical 3D printer. Efficient. I appreciate that. While that's baking, I send my golden trio, Xia Yuan, Spearman 2, and my dumb skeleton, out to sweep the area clean of monsters, with heavy emphasis on, be careful. Especially toward the east, don't be a hero. I keep the militia home since they're useless in a fight and would just die running away slower than the danger chasing them. Gotta protect what little defense I have left at base too. I briefly consider building a protective stone wall around everything, because obviously that sounds amazing, but quickly realize I'm nowhere near having enough stone or dust for that dream right now. Shelve that idea for later, comfort myself with, the arrow tower will handle defense eventually, and move on. With literally nothing left for me personally to do, because let's be honest, I'm built for commanding, not manual labor. I plop down and open chat again for entertainment. And oh boy, chat is an absolute war zone of vindication and drama. People calling out their old haters now that building mechanics are confirmed real. Someone celebrating cracking the top 100. Some poor guy who hasn't eaten in a full day begging for help, only to get told, essentially, good luck, buddy. Nobody's close enough to save you. Maybe just smash your own altar. Then the top-ranked lords start revealing themselves one by one like it's some superhero unmasking scene. And one dramatic dude interrupts everything screaming that he's the real main character, and everyone's been crediting the wrong guy for his rank. Chat immediately dogpiles him with apologies and fawning questions like he's royalty. Honestly, more entertaining than anything on actual TV back home. I sit back, watch the chaos unfold, and enjoy the show. Some jealous randoms in chat start hating on Zhu Zhengjue for only being second place, saying it's temporary and means nothing. He claps back instantly, roasting them for being salty from behind a screen, and honestly, a full-blown flame war erupts with random bystanders throwing gasoline on it for entertainment. I'm not proud of how much I enjoy this. Meanwhile, out in the field, Xia Yuan spots a group of spiky wild boars and decides to get fancy with tactics. Instead of charging in like a caveman, he sends Spearman 2 out as bait to lure them in while he and Skeleton 2 wait in ambush behind the trees. The boars take the bait immediately, charging after fake panicking Spearman 2 like idiots, right into Xia Yuan's spear, which skewers one clean through the skull before they even notice him. Skeleton 2 chops another for good measure, and Spearman 2 finishes his pursuer with a slick counter stab. 2 seconds later, the last boar gets casually smacked into the afterlife. For boars, 0 injuries, under a minute. Xia Yuan stands there afterward looking thoughtful, clearly leveling up his understanding of sneaky wins over stupid. My man is graduating from the school of cowardly tactics, and I couldn't be prouder. Since he doesn't have my fancy inventory system, he just improvises a loot sack out of stolen skeleton cloth like some kind of frugal war criminal, then keeps moving to clear more ground. Back home, I get random kill notifications popping up out of nowhere and wonder why I never noticed this before. Guessing it only shows up once units wander far enough away. Neat little detail. Filing it away, I peek at chat again and see the top lord bragging about having some kind of unit-producing building already, which stings a little because with my evolution sheet power, I feel like I should be dominating this leaderboard, not just vibing in the 40s. Whatever, patience. Given enough time, I'll definitely climb. Materials for the arrow tower finally come together, so I close chat. Mostly because watching strangers insult each other over pixels stopped being funny after round 3, and finally try activating the blueprint again. This time it actually works. The glowing schematic solidifies into a real building, and I plant it right behind my spike trap on the east side, feed it the last of the resources, and watch it snap into existence instantly. Meanwhile, my warehouse is still slowly constructing next to it like the world's laziest contractor. I check the tower's info, and it's basically just shoot stuff automatically within 100 meters, no damage numbers, or anything helpful. Typical vague system nonsense. Testing shows it can also be manually aimed if someone controls it directly, and the arrows hit about as hard as Spearman 2's regular skill attack. Solid, but limited, since I've got 0 way to refill ammo. Every shot is basically burning irreplaceable currency. Fantastic. 2 hours later, my warehouse finishes too, complete with a neat trick where anything stored inside magically shrinks down to safe space. then pops back to full size when removed. Genuinely impressed by basic warehouse tech in this world. Xia Yuan's squad swings back briefly to drop off loot, all of them completely unharmed, which finally lets me relax about sending him out solo for the first time. Turns out they're already halfway done clearing the area, with east and part of west still left. I feed them some fruit for energy and send them right back out. Then I go through the hall. Dust brings my total up to a comfortable stash, plus 3 recruitment orbs, jackpot, and a mysterious new item called a building resource pouch that gives random materials when used. Cracking those open nets me iron, ore, and, more importantly, a literal crystal stone, which instantly explains how that show-off, Zhu Zhengjue, already built a fancy unit production building this early. Sneaky little shortcut item, noted. Last item, an actual short sword, simple but solid, which I gladly claim since I currently have 0 ways to defend myself besides hide behind my units and pray. I toss the 3 recruitment orbs into the altar and finally, get some variety. A militia, a skeleton, and a tiny fairy no bigger than a thumb with delicate wings like a dragonfly. I nearly cry tears of joy that my altar isn't secretly a graveyard portal after all. This little fairy turns out to be a plant support unit, born to nurture greenery. I immediately evolve her since I've got a fresh fairy evolution point sitting around, and she grows into a slightly bigger, more animated version of herself, buzzing around excitedly, making cute little noises I can't understand. She's got a skill called pollen, but naturally doesn't know how to use it yet, so I send Minghai to teach her, which goes about as well as you'd expect between a skeleton clicking his jaw and a fairy squeaking nonsense at each other in mutual confusion. Turns out Minghai can only communicate with Xia Yuan because he used to be human. Lesson learned. Skeleton to fairy translation services do not exist here. She figures it out solo in under 20 minutes anyway, because apparently every unit I get is secretly a genius except my sad, stuttering backup spearman. I name her Hualing. Her pollen can slowly evolve regular plants into something fancier, and apparently doubles as a mild sleep-inducing effect on living things. Though, mild is generous, since testing on myself just made me feel slightly drowsy instead of instantly passing out. After 2 unimpressive tests, she gets visibly sad about not being useful in a fight, so I quickly reassure her that combat isn't her lane, plant care is, and I officially name her the future manager of my fruit grove once it's safe enough to claim. Watching her mood instantly flip back to cheerful buzzing honestly melts my cold, calculating landlord heart a little. Finally, a good-looking unit around here that isn't a walking skeleton or a stone-faced meathead. My kingdom's average attractiveness rating just went up considerably. That said, nobody freeloads in Xia Yuan except me. So until the grove's ready, I quietly decide she's my new scout. She's tiny, fast, and basically invisible to regular monsters. Perfect recon material. But for now, I keep that plan to myself and just enjoy watching her happily flutter around in the sunlight. A guy's allowed a break every once in a while. A bunch of kill notifications suddenly ping through my head, waking me up from my daydreaming. Goblins. Killed. Multiple. Which means only one thing. There's definitely a goblin nest hiding somewhere to the west. Great. Love that for me. East still isn't cleared, and now west is throwing goblins at me too. If I don't hurry up, I'm basically setting myself up to get sandwiched from both sides like a sad kingdom kebab. Xia Yuan, meanwhile, pulls his spear out of some unlucky goblin's chest and decides this info is important enough to report back personally instead of just continuing the cleanup. Smart man. Back at base, he tells me the group he just wiped was sneaking toward my territory on purpose, which basically confirms my worst fear. That goblin pack from before wasn't random. There's a whole nest out west looking for its missing buddies. Lovely. I check on everyone first, because units are precious and I refuse to lose one over some side quest curiosity. Turns out only minor scrapes on my B team, nothing serious. Relief washes over me. Losing a unit right now would genuinely wreck my whole week. I hand out healing dust, tell everyone to rest, and plan to send them east once I evolve one more spearman. Xia Yuan, ever the overachiever, immediately starts absorbing dust to level up during his break, instead of actually resting. This guy doesn't know how to chill. Loot check, some dust, and a new item called a food resource pouch, which pops out 50 pieces of dried beef. Real meat. I get excited until I actually bite into it and immediately regret my life choices. Dry, bland, tastes like salted cardboard left in a desert for a decade. Filling, sure, but definitely emergency rations only material. Straight to storage it goes. Once my evolution points tick up, I upgrade another militia into a spearman and name him accordingly. Testing him confirms something interesting. Turns out Xia Yuan's freakishly high intelligence is the exception, not the rule. My other spearmen are all roughly the same, normal, smarts. Xia Yuan's just built different, apparently. I send the newly healed four-man squad east to keep clearing monsters, deciding the West Goblin Nest can wait until tomorrow once I've got more evolved units ready to handle it properly. Priority right now is just carving out a safe bubble around my base. Then it hits me. I feel like I'm forgetting something. A tiny buzzing voice reminds me. Oh right, I completely forgot to send Hualing along as a scout. Whoops. Oh well, not like they needed her yet anyway. Crisis averted, mostly by pretending it wasn't a mistake. Meanwhile, out in the field, Xia Yuan's group finishes off a wolf pack and stumbles onto something bizarre sitting in the middle of the wolf den, what looks exactly like a treasure chest. Which, understandably, throws him off completely, because why would a random wooden box just be chilling in a monster nest like it pays rent there? Confused but dutiful, he tries picking it up to bring home. Except the thing refuses to budge, like it's glued straight into the ground itself. He throws his full strength at it, and doesn't move it an inch. Undeterred, he decides, fine, I'll just open it here and carry the loot instead. Except the chest, despite having no visible lock, refuses to open no matter what he tries. Pulling, prying, even stabbing it with his spear does absolutely nothing. Wooden box acting tougher than solid iron. Officially spooked, Xia Yuan abandons the mystery box mission and rushes back to report to me instead. I about have a heart attack when I see him and the squad walking completely drenched in blood, until he clarifies it's mostly monster blood, not theirs, and I remember to breathe again. Then he tells me about the immovable, unopenable chest sitting out there like some cursed relic, and my brain immediately fires off every treasure chest trope I've ever seen in movies and games. Naturally, I drop everything. I pull Minghai off logging duty, because apparently one tireless skeleton alone has already cleared nearly 100 meters of forest and stockpiled over 2,000 wood and 1,000 stone, no rest required, absolute legend. And grab a couple militia and Hualing too, heading straight for the chest with my whole crew in tow. Since the surrounding area's already been swept clean this time, properly swept, not just a quick scan like before, I'm not too worried about an ambush on the walkover. Xia Yuan leads me straight to the chest. Around it, a pile of dead wolves, clearly his handiwork, spear holes and all. I ignore the corpse pile like a true professional and walk right up to open my prize. The second I touch it, a message pops up asking if I want to open it. Turns out this thing was locked specifically for a lord, which explains why Xia Yuan couldn't so much as scratch it. Rookie mistake on my part, doubting my own VIP status. I open it without hesitation. The chest dissolves into light, leaving behind a small pile of goodies, 2 guaranteed skeleton recruitment orbs, a bathhouse blueprint, and a rare magic scroll. 2 more skeletons. Of course. At this point, I'm convinced I have some kind of cosmic bone-related destiny. The bathhouse blueprint actually excites me though. Real hygiene. Finally, instead of freezing my butt off in a river every time I want to feel human again. Big quality of life upgrade. Then the scroll, an arcane shield, one-time use, blocks attacks below a certain threshold for 30 seconds, but only works on me, not my units. Kind of a bummer since I'd rather protect Xia Yuan with it than my own soft, unathletic body. But hey, free 30 seconds of not dying is nothing to complain about. Right as I'm tucking everything away, a whole new wolf pack shows up out of nowhere, led by an actual alpha wolf clearly stronger than the rest. Convenient timing, universe. Real convenient. I glance at my squad, do some quick mental math, and realize I'm not even slightly worried. I've got enough firepower here to handle 10 mangy wolves in my sleep. The alpha charges first, howling like he's the main character. I calmly retreat behind my militia like the coward/genius I am and hand off the fight to my A-team. Hualing, however, immediately loses it, squeaking in terror and hiding behind my head like I'm some kind of human bunker. I reassure her everything's fine. and she bravely peeks out just in time to watch Minghai cave a wolf's skull in and get sprayed head to jawbone in blood, which, combined with his permanently clacking mouth, makes him look absolutely nightmare fuel. She immediately regrets peeking and dives back behind my head. Smart girl. Meanwhile, the actual fight is less battle and more public execution. The alpha wolf, cocky and fast, gets launched into the air by Xia Yuan's new skill and impaled clean through before it even lands. With the boss dead, in seconds, the rest of the pack falls apart fast. Minghai splits another skull open. My two spearmen stab down a couple more, and only my unskilled backup skeleton struggles a bit without a flashy move to rely on. Lesson learned watching this. Skills beat no skills, and smart units beat skilled but dumb units. Basic tier list, but useful to know. Loot drops in nicely, plus another random recruitment orb. I hand out my usual round of praise and lead everyone back home for a well-earned break. After resting up, I send the squad back out to finish clearing the east, this time bringing Minghai along too, since nightfall's creeping in and I want that side wrapped up fast. My home defense is solid enough with the leftovers holding the fort. As for Hualing, one look at her still shaking like a leaf and inching away from Minghai tells me everything I need to know. She's staying home today. Scouting can wait. Traumatizing my cute little fairy any further definitely can't. With my dust pile getting fat, I toss some at Hualing to level her up, then pick a nice spot for my brand new bathhouse. Thank God for that lucky resource pouch earlier, or I'd never have scraped together enough materials this fast. The bathhouse pops up instantly, and I check the details. Auto-filling water, nice, until I see it actually costs dust to run every half hour. A subscription fee. In a fantasy world. Unbelievable. But I get it. Water doesn't just appear from nowhere. Gotta pay the magical water bill somehow. Naturally, my brain immediately goes full scammer mode. What if I just take the water outside and use it as a free water source? Genius plan. I grab a bucket, walk out proudly like I just discovered a loophole in reality, and the water vanishes into thin air the second I step through the door. I try again with a different container. Water still disappears. I try one more time out of pure stubbornness. Same result. System, 1E, 0. Fine, I'll pay my water bill like everyone else. I dump in my recruitment orbs before washing up. More skeletons and a militia join the ranks. Then finally treat myself to an actual bath. Feels incredible. 10 out of 10, would recommend, would definitely go into debt over it again. Meanwhile, out in the field, Minghai finishes off the last of a snake ambush, and Xia Yuan swaggers over to pat him on the back like a proud big brother, praising him the exact same way I always praise them. Minghai just clacks back something that basically means, I learned from the best, which makes Xia Yuan laugh way too hard for how simple the compliment was. Meanwhile, my other two spearmen just stand there completely lost on how their leader is best friends with a walking skeleton, and my dumb backup skeleton continues his proud tradition of staring blankly into the void. With the surrounding kilometer fully swept, the squad heads home, but not before Xia Yuan does one more paranoid lap, just to be sure. Thorough guy. Love that for me. Back home, I catch up on chat drama and learn some big brain lore did actual statistics on recruitment patterns. Turns out low-tier random orbs mostly just spit out starting units or whatever type you already have, which finally explains my endless skeleton pipeline. Also, apparently higher quality units level up faster, which contradicts my earlier, it's all about intelligence, theory. Probably both factors are involved, though my confused backup skeleton makes me wonder if intelligence really tracks with quality at all. Xia Yuan's squad rolls back in with the full sweep done, so I hand out praise and let everyone enjoy the bathhouse. Though watching a skeleton bathe is genuinely one of the weirdest visuals I've experienced in this entire adventure. Checking the loot. More dust, 2 more random recruitment orbs, of course, and a resource pouch that drops both a fire crystal and a regular crystal. Exactly what I needed to eventually upgrade the bathhouse. Except my base isn't high level enough yet to actually use them. Filed away for later. The recruitment orbs, shockingly, produced 2 more skeletons. At this point, my undead count officially matches my human count, and honestly, I've made peace with it. Skeletons don't eat, don't sleep, don't complain, genuinely the ideal workforce. My little undead HR department is thriving. That night, dinner's dried beef for the humans and fruit for me. since I still refuse to risk a fire. Watching the skeletons stand loyal guard without a single complaint while munching on nothing makes me appreciate them even more. Even Hualing gets in on dinner, happily hugging a fruit nearly her own size and nibbling away. I spend the evening evolving a couple more units and distributing dust for leveling. Bigger portions to my stronger units since they're my priority investment, smaller shares to the newer ones, and whatever's left goes to Xia Yuan and Minghai. By the time I'm done, my dust reserves are completely wiped out again. But hey, that's what it's there for. Morning comes, I check everyone's levels, solid progress across the board. Though my 2-star players are climbing slower than the rest since higher levels apparently take longer no matter how good you are. I peek at the evolution points, decide it's smarter to save up for evolving Xia Yuan's understudy into elite tier rather than spreading thin, then send my 2 lieutenants out with their crews for one more safety sweep before the big op. While waiting, I check the leaderboard for fun, climbed a few spots, nothing dramatic, and noticed the top spot has already changed hands twice since yesterday. Competition's heating up. Everyone's clawing for the same scraps of progress. Chat offers nothing useful besides some names, so I close it and wait for my scouts to report back clean. Once confirmed the area is fully safe, I gather every unit above 2 stars and personally head west to hunt down the goblin nest myself, because I'm the only one who can actually see enemy stats, which makes me the designated scaredy cat scout whether I like it or not. Not far from base, we run into a pack of black jackals, but my squad's grown strong enough now that it's barely even a fight. Quick, clean, profitable. My confidence swells with every easy kill. The rest of the walk west is oddly quiet though. Barely any monsters at all, way less than expected. Either the goblins already cleared this territory themselves, or it was always sparse out here. Before I can fully puzzle that out, I finally spot the first real signs of goblin activity. Weird noises echo through the trees, so I sneak my crew closer to check it out. There, I spot a whole goblin war party, bigger and meaner than anything I've seen so far, led by an actual goblin warrior hyping up his troops like some pep talk-giving goblin coach. 15 of them total, including a couple rock-throwing specialists carrying baskets on their backs. I peek at their direction of travel and, yep, straight toward my base. Not today, boys. Xia Yuan, Minghai, handle it, I say, in my most commanding voice, from a very safe hiding spot. They sneak up from behind like proper assassins, and my skeletons burst out first, instantly chopping down a couple goblins before anyone even notices. The goblin boss roars and tries rallying a counterattack, but Xia Yuan's crew flanks from the front, spears already glowing, and skewers the leadership before they can even turn around. Total wipeout in under a minute. My guys are basically a special ops unit at this point. Loot's amazing, tons of dust, way more than that bear dropped earlier, plus recruitment orbs including a rare goblin-specific one. Not my favorite unit type, but hey, free is free. We keep pushing toward wherever these goblins came from, and the deeper we go, the more goblin sign we find. After clearing a couple more patrol squads, I spot something incredible. A 2-meter stone statue shaped like a giant scale, sitting quietly in the woods, guarded by a lazy squad of goblins who look more interested in napping than defending anything. Wild building? Is this actually happening to me? I nearly lose my mind with excitement. I've heard rumors in chat about random buildings hidden out in the world, but never actually seen one myself. The guard goblins are so relaxed and undefended that clearing them out barely counts as a fight. My squad rolls through them without breaking a sweat. I walk up and touch the statue, and it reveals itself as something called the exchange scale, a special structure that lets me trade any recruitment orb for a different amount of basic 1-star orbs of a type I already own. At first glance, it seems like a bad deal. Trading a rare orb down for common ones sounds like a scam. But then it clicks. My evolution power doesn't care about starting quality. It only cares about quantity per unit type. Which means this scale isn't a downgrade machine for me. It's basically a jackpot dispenser. I can turn any fancy orb into a pile of basic recruits, then evolve them myself into whatever I want. I test it immediately. Trade a random common orb for militia orbs, 1 for 1. Then I trade my rare goblin orb, and suddenly 3 skeleton orbs pop out instead. Best exchange rate I could ask for. I laugh out loud right there in the middle of the forest like an absolute maniac. An army just handed itself to me on a silver platter, and all it cost was some dust and patience. This is easily the best day I've had since arriving in this world. Reluctantly tearing myself away from my new favorite toy, we push forward, and the goblin numbers just keep climbing the further we go, which makes my stomach twist a little. If this many goblins are just wandering patrol duty, how big is the actual nest? Finally, past another patrol, I spot it. Except it's not a nest at all. It's a full-blown fortified camp, fenced in, with a massive crowd of goblins lounging outside. Too far away to read any stat info, and too dangerous to walk closer without knowing what I'm dealing with. I squint until my eyes practically dry out trying to make out details. Then remember, I have exactly the right tool for this job. Hualing, I need your help. Fly over and scout the camp for me. She immediately shakes her head, terrified. Understandable, given her track record with anything remotely dangerous. But after a moment of hesitation, and maybe some encouragement from me, she bravely agrees anyway. That's my girl, I tell her, genuinely proud. I don't like forcing anyone to do something they don't want to, Lord title or not. So her willingness means a lot. She flutters off toward the camp, and, while she's gone, I glance at my crew and have a small existential moment. The smarter my units get through evolution, the more personality and free will they develop too. Which is great for combat, sure, but also opens the door to units eventually having their own opinions about things. A problem for future me. Present me has a war party to plan. Eventually, Hualing flutters back, clearly proud of herself for successfully counting goblins with her tiny fairy fingers despite messing up the count multiple times along the way. She tries explaining through gestures, and I'm hopelessly lost trying to interpret fairy sign language, until Xia Yuan, of all people, steps in and starts translating. Turns out he can partially understand her, which shocks both me and Hualing, who lights up immediately at finally being understood by someone. Through Xia Yuan's translation, roughly 40 goblins total, some elite warriors and rock throwers mixed in, and a couple of huts she didn't dare investigate too closely out of fear. I reassure her that's completely fine. She did great just for getting this far, and her whole face lights up with relief and pride. Little fairy's braver than she gives herself credit for. After scoping out the goblin camp, I do some quick math. 40 goblins, warriors, rock throwers, maybe something scarier hiding in those huts. Straight up charging in is basically suicide. So I go with plan B. Bait a few out at a time and pick them off in small groups. Classic divide and conquer, courtesy of every strategy game I've ever played. But first, patience. I hold off attacking until I can evolve one more spearman and Minghai, because why fight at 80% strength when I can fight at 100%? While waiting, I swing back to base, check for danger, recruit my exchange skeletons and militia, then head back out to keep quietly thinning goblin patrols. Eventually my human evolution points hit 5, so Spearman 2 gets promoted into elite tier, though unlike Xia Yuan, he's still not exactly winning any trivia contests, just barely managing full sentences now. Around midday, my undead points catch up too, so Minghai gets the elite treatment as well. Not as dramatic a glow-up as before, but he finally gets real armor instead of relying purely on being made of bone as his defense strategy. He's absolutely thrilled, patting his new gear like a kid showing off a new jacket. Turns out he's been quietly jealous of Xia Yuan's armor this whole time. Adorable little bone man has feelings. His new skill's a spin attack that hits everything around him. Simple, but effective. After a quick rest and snack break, because unlike my tireless undead squad, I actually get tired walking around all day like some kind of weak, fleshy mortal, it's go time. Step 1 of the bait plan. Hualing, my adorable but terrified secret weapon. She agrees despite clearly not loving the idea. Bless her tiny brave heart. She flutters toward the camp, catches the attention of a few bored goblins, and boom. Minghai ambushes them from above with his new spin move and takes out 6 heads in one clean rotation. Absolutely brutal, extremely satisfying, and honestly way easier than I expected. Feeling good, I send Hualing back out for round 2. She nets even more goblins this time, including 1 goblin soldier, and my squad wipes them just as easily. Round 3 goes just as smooth, but then round 4 goes sideways. A fireball comes flying straight at my poor fairy out of nowhere. She barely dodges it in time, and suddenly a whole squad, led by a menacing red-skinned goblin, reveals itself, and starts pelting her with rocks and fire like she personally offended their entire bloodline. She narrows escapes every single throw somehow, but the entire camp goes into full alert mode and charges after her in one giant mob. Watching this unfold from a distance, my stomach drops. I can't tell exactly what's happening to her, just that a small army is now sprinting through the woods with murder on their minds. I've got two options: cut my losses and retreat, or throw everything into a fight before things get worse. Given that I genuinely don't know if Hualing can survive long enough for a wait and ambush plan, I make the call fast. Screw it. Charge, I order. 20-something goblins, half of them weak, against my 3 elite units and 6 mid-tier fighters who mostly no actual skills. I don't love the odds, but I like them enough. Xia Yuan leads the charge, Minghai and Spearman too right behind him, the rest following close. Except my perpetually unlucky backup skeleton, who's a step slow as always. The red goblin, very clearly the leader, spots the counterattack and grins like he's been waiting for exactly this. He rallies his goblins into a frenzy, and I finally get a good look at him. Level 7, 3-star quality. The exact kind of threat I was quietly hoping wouldn't show up. Still, I count only one 3-star unit in the whole horde, which is at least somewhat comforting given I've got 3 of my own on the field. The fight turns messy fast, fireballs exploding everywhere, rocks flying, my squad ducking and weaving through chaos. Xia Yuan tries pushing toward the fire goblin directly, but the guy's too well guarded, backed by warriors and rock throwers keeping everyone at bay. Minghai jumps in to help split the pressure, but even together, they can't quite break through yet. Meanwhile, Hualing finally reaches me, practically crying with relief, and I scoop her up and hold her safe while quietly promising myself, after this mess is over, she's never doing combat recon again. Scouting flowers and managing fruit groves only, from now on. This poor fairy has earned her retirement from war duty. Spearman too wants to rush in and help Xia Yuan and Minghai, but seeing how tough the remaining goblins are, he decides to focus on clearing his own group first. Getting greedy and splitting attention would just get someone hurt, and he knows how much his lord hates casualties. Right as he's weighing his options, a rock catches him off guard, cracking against his chest armor. He shakes it off, dodges the follow-up attack, and immediately makes it his personal mission to shut down the rock throwers. My unlucky backup skeleton doesn't get so lucky. He finishes off one goblin. Then a rock slams into his shoulder, shattering the joint and dropping his arm to the ground. Before he can even recover, a second rock smashes his knee, and down he goes. A goblin moves in for the kill, but skeleton buddy number 2 isn't having it. Eyes blazing, he charges in and splits the attacking goblin's skull wide open, then plants himself protectively in front of his fallen comrade, holding the line. Meanwhile, Spearman too breaks through to a rock thrower, punching a spear straight through both a blocking goblin and the target behind it in one clean thrust. No celebration, just straight onto the next target. Minghai, growing increasingly frustrated that he and Xia Yuan can't get close to the fire goblin, gets his chance when Xia Yuan calls out for a distraction. Without hesitation, Minghai charges straight into the danger zone, drawing every fireball and rock in the vicinity. One explosion sends him flying backward through the air. But that opening is all Xia Yuan needs. He leaps, channels every bit of energy he's learned to focus into his spear tip, and hurls the entire weapon like a javelin, glowing blade and all, somehow keeping its energy even after leaving his hand. It punches clean through the fire goblin's chest before the thing even registers what's happening. With their leader dead, the remaining goblins lose their nerve instantly. Minghai, still smoking from the earlier blast, gets back up laughing his signature bone-rattling laugh at watching that annoying red menace finally drop. The panicking goblins try to flee, but Minghai and Xia Yuan cut them down before they get 2 steps. Rushing over afterward, I check on everyone. Mostly minor injuries across the board, Xia Yuan completely unscathed as usual, and only backup skeleton seriously hurt. Since he's already dead on the inside, literally, a busted arm and knee aren't fatal, just annoying, easily patched up with time and dust. Minghai stands there staring at his fallen bony comrade with an expression I can't quite place, some mix of concern he probably didn't know he was capable of. I reassure him that evolving the injured skeleton will fix him right up, which gets Minghai curious since apparently nobody told him evolution doubles as a healing method. I decide not to over-explain and just let him find out later, mostly because I'm honestly not 100% sure myself how it all works. Half joking, I nudge Minghai about learning some kind of resurrection skill someday, so injured skeletons could just pop back to life on the spot. I don't actually expect that to happen. That sounds like wizard business, not warrior business, but I notice him quietly filing the idea away like he's taking it way more seriously than I intended. Curious about that flying spear trick, I go find Xia Yuan and get the full explanation. Turns out it's just a natural extension of the same energy control every unit uses for their base skills. Basic stuff, apparently, if you're built different like him. I ask if he can teach it to the others, and he says yes, but it depends on the individual and takes time. Fair enough, bonus skills are nice, but I've got a cheat code for skills anyway, so no pressure either way. The loot pile from this whole operation is genuinely incredible. Huge amounts of dust, several recruitment orbs, mostly goblin type, unsurprisingly, resource pouches, and 2 brand new blueprints, a public restroom, which honestly might be the single most exciting piece of infrastructure I've unlocked so far, and a farmland plot that apparently only costs dust to create instead of actual materials. No idea how that works yet, but I'm not complaining. Feeling genuinely thrilled about basically doubling my army in one afternoon, I gather up the loot and lead everyone toward the actual goblin camp to check it out properly, still being cautious just in case any stragglers are lurking, and definitely not just because I'm nosy about what's inside. Walking through those wooden gates, the camp honestly looks more put together than my own base does. Which, fair, mine is basically 3 huts and vibes at this point. And that's exactly when something catches my eye that makes me stop dead in my tracks. Something familiar catches my eye across the goblin camp, and my stomach drops a little. A lord's altar, broken almost completely apart. I rush over to confirm it. And yep, this whole camp used to be someone else's territory before the goblins took over. Which means there was a lord here before me, and judging by the wear, they've been gone a while. I don't love thinking about what that implies for their fate, but that's a problem for someone braver than me, and honestly not my circus, not my monkeys right now. I test the broken altar just in case there's any juice left in it, but nope, completely dead. Just fancy rubble now. Still, I have Minghai's squad haul it back home anyway, because who knows, maybe someone smarter than me can figure out a use for it later. Next, we search the huts. Most are exactly what you'd expect from goblin bachelor pads. Smelly, empty, 1 bed, 0 personality. I hold my nose through each one, silently judging goblin hygiene standards the entire time. Finally, one hut actually has something. A wooden box, plus a mysterious white fruit with blue markings sitting nearby that I've genuinely never seen before, complete with an actual official name this time instead of just generic edible fruit. Feels like leveling up my food identification game. Inside the box, over 20 more of these fruits. I make Xia Yuan try one as a guinea pig, and he reports back. Bland taste, but insanely filling, enough to cover an entire day's food needs in 1 bite. Which is honestly perfect timing, because feeding my growing human squad was starting to worry me a little. Digging further, I find a mysterious document in a language nobody can read, and jackpot, a pouch of actual seeds for this new fruit. Fast-growing too, ready in just 2 weeks, as long as I've got farmland to plant them in. Which I conveniently just unlocked the blueprint for. Coincidence? I refuse to believe it. Clearly the universe has decided I'm secretly the chosen one. After confirming there's nothing else useful lying around, we head to the exchange scale to cash and loot before heading home. My rare fire goblin orb goes straight into the trade. No hesitation, no sentimentality, straight into skeletons, since food security matters more right now than flexing a fancy unit I don't even like. Turns out 3-star trades only net 6 basic orbs, which feels like a ripoff compared to the 2-star rate. So I mentally note, never trade anything above 2-star again unless I really don't want it. Small losses I can accept, big ones I can't. I round out the exchange with more skeletons, a couple militia, and 1 fairy orb, since Hualing's clearly going to need help managing this incoming fruit farm situation. Back at camp, I send Xia Yuan's squad out to mop up any goblin stragglers still wandering the woods, hand out fruit rations to keep everyone fed, and let Minghai personally haul the loot box home. which he insists on doing solo, apparently taking great pride in his own strength these days. Home again, safe and sound, I immediately dump everyone's orbs into the altar. A wave of new skeletons, militia, and fairies pop out right on schedule. Hualing gets ridiculously excited seeing a new fairy show up, immediately trying to chat her up, only to get met with total silence, since apparently baby fairies need to evolve before they can even talk. Poor Hualing looks so confused. Then I toss in my last batch of random orbs hoping for something new and interesting. Instead, the universe hands me 1 militia and 3 more fairies. 3 fairies. I don't need 3 fairies. What am I running here? A magical garden convention. Still, Hualing's thrilled, so I decide to just roll with it. Extra bodies means faster fairy-type evolution points anyway, silver lining and all that. With the recruiting chaos sorted, I finally get to test my shiny new public restroom blueprint. One quick placement and material dump later, boom. Real bathroom, real plumbing, running on a tiny dust fee per use. Honestly, might be the single greatest quality of life achievement of my entire time in this world so far. The bathrooms even got auto-cleaning, which honestly solves a problem I didn't even know how to fix before. Walking in, it's basically squat toilets with dividers, a sink station, and the real jackpot, actual toilet paper. Rough paper, sure, but compared to leaves, it might as well be silk. I could cry. After admiring my new favorite building a little too long, I leave some units on guard duty and take the rest to the fruit grove to finally set up a farm. Trying to plant runs into an immediate snag. Trees are blocking the spot, so I send Minghai's crew to clear space without touching the actual fruit trees. Once that's done, the farmland finally builds properly, boosting plant growth speed as a nice bonus. I hand seeds to the militia, expecting the usual blank stares, and instead they suddenly turn into competent little farmers like they've done this their whole lives. I genuinely do not understand how these guys' brains work sometimes. While the militia plant and skeletons chop wood into fencing, Minghai turning giant logs into planks like it's nothing, then patiently teaching the less gifted skeletons how to do the same. I kick back against a tree and check chat for entertainment. Turns out everyone's still deep in hygiene drama. Someone's having a full breakdown over not bathing in days. A couple people mock her for being dramatic. Others rally to defend her. And then somebody casually mentions the bathhouse building exists, which sends the whole chat into a, wait, that's a thing, spiral. One lucky lord even claims to have a level 2 bathhouse blueprint with hot water, which triggers a wave of jealousy and people begging for handouts. Reading all this, I feel weirdly validated. My building luck is apparently solidly average compared to some of these guys with fancy tier 2 gear already. Not amazing, not terrible. I'll take it. The fence around my new farm and grove finishes up looking simple but functional. Basically hand-carved wooden planks, nothing fancy, but good enough to keep casual wildlife out. I officially put Hualing in charge of the whole operation. She initially mimes something that looks suspiciously like, "Do I get to fight now?" And I have to laugh and clarify. No, absolutely not. Combat's for Xia Yuan and Minghai. Her job is strictly plants and vibes. She's thrilled with that answer, dragging her fairy squad off to happily flutter around their new garden kingdom. Minghai checks in for his next task, so I split. His crew, half go with him for stone, half go with skeleton 2 for wood, with extra patrol duty on the east side just to be safe. By evening, Xia Yuan's squad returns from goblin cleanup duty, covered head to toe in green blood, dragging back loot and reporting most of the western goblins handled, with just a final sweep needed tomorrow. I tell him not to bother chasing down every last straggler. As long as they're not organizing into a real threat, I've got bigger things to worry about tomorrow. I feed one leftover orb into the altar for a fresh militia, save the goblin orb for another exchange run tomorrow, then wait as evolution points tick up through the night. Once my undead points hit 6, I check on my injured backup skeleton and notice his required evolution cost dropped slightly from healing over time, confirming my earlier theory that evolution and recovery are linked. Satisfied with that little scientific victory, I evolve him immediately. He comes out the other side as a full elite skeleton, completely healed, bones perfectly intact, and, surprise, suddenly equipped with 2 skills instead of 0, matching Minghai almost exactly. Watching Minghai stare at his healed comrade with something suspiciously close to genuine relief kind of gets me right in the feels. In a weird, these skeletons have more personality than most sitcom characters kind of way. Testing confirms my theory even further. Evolution isn't just growth. It's basically a full system reset. Fixing skills, fixing intelligence, fixing injuries, all in one glowing package deal. I briefly try overthinking the logic behind it before catching myself and remembering, hey, I got Ice Guide into a fantasy world with a magic upgrade button. Maybe don't question the mechanics too hard and just enjoy the free healing. With that settled, I sit back and start doing the math on whether to burn my remaining points on random 1-star units tomorrow or save everything for pushing Xia Yuan and Minghai even further ahead. I decide not to overthink it. High-quality units first. Regular ones can wait until my numbers grow. I do the math on when Xia Yuan and Minghai can evolve again, then turn my attention to the fairies since they're pure support and could really use the brain boost. I evolve one fairy into a big fairy, expecting maybe another genius like Hualing. Nope. Turns out Hualing really was just special. This new one, who I name Huai, is just normal, cute, functional, chatty in her own fairy way, but nothing extraordinary. Hualing doesn't care though. She's absolutely delighted to have a buddy who can finally sort of talk back, even if it takes her 10 seconds to respond to anything. Morning of day 4 rolls around, and my leaderboard rank jumps way up thanks to overnight leveling. Should feel amazing, except my brain immediately goes, wait, if this is only good enough for 25th place, what horrifying monsters are sitting in the top 10? I close that tab before my self-esteem takes further damage. I evolved 2 more fairies the same way, confirming yep, definitely a species trait thing, not a fluke. Name them Hua Air and Hua San. Then send the whole flower squad off to bond. Time for the big one, evolving Xia Yuan and Minghai again. Both light up with excitement the second I mention it, though Xia Yuan quickly reins it back into his usual composed self, while Minghai just keeps happily clacking away, no such restraint whatsoever. I hit them both with evolution power, and this time it takes noticeably longer than usual. When the light fades, I'm staring at 2 completely transformed units. Xia Yuan's rocking full silver armor now, some kind of fancy helmet, and, weirdly, a Western-style halberd instead of a spear. Minghai's grown even taller, wrapped in genuine bone armor plating with a matching shield, looking absolutely terrifying, like a final boss straight out of a horror game. Well, undead being intimidating tracks, I mutter, but Xia Yuan, why does your name literally mean spear, and you're now swinging an axe-spear combo? Feels like false advertising, though I guess magical fantasy worlds default to European weapon aesthetics, so fair enough. Checking their stats confirms they've officially crossed into rare tier quality, apparently the next rank up after maxing regular quality, with brand new AoE-style energy attacks. Both report feeling roughly twice as strong as before, which is an insane jump considering they were already crushing everything in sight. The new skills, though, actually require practice this time. Unlike previous upgrades where they mastered moves in minutes, these new energy/abilities take real trial and error, since apparently ranged energy projection is a whole new mechanic for them. After about 10 minutes of fumbling, they both landed, Xia Yuan slicing clean through 2 trees in one swing with a blade of compressed air energy, Minghai following with his own crescent-shaped blast of dark energy. Both immediately start critiquing their own performance like perfectionists, saying they can improve charge time and power output. I have to reassure them that mastering a brand new skill type on day 1 is already impressive, no need for the self-deprecation. I send them both out with their usual crews for the daily safety sweep, then sit back thinking about how rare tier apparently unlocks range-style techniques, though I make a mental note not to assume every rare unit gets the same treatment, since my evolution power clearly plays by its own rules sometimes. With nothing else to do, I settle into my daily ritual of chat lurking. It's basically my only entertainment left in this world, television having been replaced entirely by strangers complaining about monster attacks and hygiene problems. Today's drama. Someone proudly announces they've discovered that wild monsters seem smarter than recruited units, a fact approximately everyone already knew, resulting in a wave of gentle public mockery. Then, the age-old feud between Zhang San and his personal hater resumes escalating quickly into a swearing match so intense the system auto-censors half their messages before finally muting them both entirely. The whole chat immediately turns the incident into comedy gold, roasting them mercilessly, myself included, silently, from the safety of never actually posting anything. Honestly, best free entertainment this apocalyptic fantasy world has to offer. Xia Yuan and Minghai come back from patrol and tell me the east side has wolves creeping in, everywhere else is quiet. Given how strong my two boys have gotten, I feel bold enough to finally push toward that corruption route everyone's been dreading. I send them out with the whole heavy squad, keeping the weaker units home on guard duty. But then I stop myself. This is basically the main quest boss fight of this entire world. I can't just sit at home crossing my fingers. So I grab my sword, tuck my one-use shield scroll into my pocket like a security blanket, and tag along myself. The walk starts normal enough, until a pack of wolves ambushes us. Xia Yuan barks out a real formation command, and suddenly my spearmen are moving together like an actual disciplined unit instead of a chaotic mob. Minghai tries copying the tactic on his side, slightly clumsier but still effective. Turns out Xia Yuan's been secretly developing squad tactics on his own time, without me teaching him a single thing. My unit is basically evolving into its own military academy, and I had nothing to do with it. We keep pushing forward, and slowly the forest starts changing, leaves turning brittle, grass wilting, patches of black creeping across everything like some kind of fantasy pollution. Monsters get bigger, meaner, and way more common the deeper we go. I even watched Xia Yuan casually split a nightmare-looking hyena man clean in half without breaking a sweat. But it keeps escalating. More of those hyena brutes. Waves of elite black jackals. Everything hitting 2-star, sometimes 3-star strength, and none of them show any fear or self-preservation whatsoever. They just keep coming, no matter how mangled they get, like a horror movie zombie horde wearing animal skins. Eventually I call it. Even with my two absolute units leading the charge, the sheer numbers are getting dangerous, and my weaker troops are already banged up protecting me. I'm not about to gamble everyone's lives just to see what's further in. Grab the loot, we're pulling back, I order, and nobody argues. The retreat isn't exactly relaxing either. A few stragglers take shots at us on the way home, but we make it back in one piece, and I finally let myself breathe once we're through the gate. Turns out the whole trip ate up an entire morning without me even noticing, which honestly makes sense given how tense I was the entire time, staring at every shadow like it personally wanted to eat me. Because let's be real, I'm not Xia Yuan. I'm the soft, breakable guy who probably couldn't beat a single goblin in a fair fight. Back home, I hand out healing dust, pass out fruit to the humans, and try eating some black bread from my resource stash myself. Big mistake. That thing might as well be a brick. I nearly chip a tooth trying to bite it while my units happily crunch through it like it's fresh bakery bread. Turns out these ration foods are built for monster jaws, not soft human ones. Lesson learned, sticking to fruit from now on. Sitting there rubbing my sore jaw, I think about maybe sending the squad out for fresh meat tonight, since we've cleared enough ground to risk a fire again. Just definitely not meat from anything near that corrupted zone. Those creatures look diseased enough to give me nightmares, just remembering them. I also can't help wishing my units could see monster levels themselves instead of relying entirely on me for every scouting decision. Would make my life a whole lot easier. But no, apparently I'm stuck being the designated fragile flashlight of this operation, whether I like it or not. Still, I know deep down I'll keep tagging along on every dangerous trip regardless, because losing even one unit right now would hurt more than any monster bite ever could. Man, if I actually had a real army, like 1,000 units, I wouldn't have to tiptoe around like this, I muttered to myself, half joking, half genuinely dreaming about a future where I'm not the weakest link on every mission. Shaking off the thought, I sit down to check exactly what we hauled back from this morning's monster massacre. And despite killing way more enemies than the entire goblin camp yesterday, the loot pile is oddly unimpressive by comparison. Total dust adds up to almost 700, way less than I expected given how many monsters we actually killed. Turns out the closer a monster is to the corruption zone, the worse it drops. One of those 3-star hyena brutes barely dropped as much as an ordinary 2-star goblin soldier. Recruitment orbs came in decent numbers too, but not a single 3-star one despite fighting 3-star enemies the whole trip. Robbery, honestly. I open chat to compare notes with other lords, and the whole server lights up the second I mention the corruption route. Turns out half these people haven't even found theirs yet, while others already got chased off just trying to scout it. Even self-proclaimed top 10 lords admit they backed off once things hit 2-star and 3-star territory, with rumors of some kind of boss-tier guardian lurking near the route itself. What really catches my attention, though, everyone's corruption monsters are different. Some lords are dealing with flying horrors, others got burrowing nightmares. One guy's stuck fighting off literal vultures with 0 ranged units to fight back. Compared to that, my situation, mostly just angry goblins and jackals, actually sounds pretty tame. Guess I got lucky after all. Then some random guy shows up acting condescending, basically telling everyone, "You people can't handle this," which instantly triggers a wave of backlash and mockery. He never responds again, which somehow makes him look even more smug in hindsight. After digesting all this chat gossip, I draw my conclusions. Every corrupted monster is aggressive and fearless no matter where you are, but distance to the actual route varies wildly between territories. Mine, apparently, is uncomfortably close. With nothing more useful to learn, I close chat and head to trade and loot at the exchange scale with Xia Yuan and Minghai in tow. First, though, I build a few more huts for incoming recruits and promote a batch of militia and skeletons into their next tier. Before heading to the scale, I swing by the fruit grove to evolve my last remaining fairy. There, I find Hualing and her fairy squad all pointing their pollen skill at the same tree simultaneously, which makes me wonder if stacking multiple fairies could speed up plant evolution. She explains, through Xiang Yun's translation, since apparently fairy sign language still needs a middleman, that she's experimenting, not entirely sure herself if it'll work. I cheer her on anyway, because enthusiasm counts for something even when the science is shaky. I evolve the last fairy, name her Hua Si, and send her off to help with the group experiment. Walking away, I start mentally ranking my unit types. Fairies are, unfortunately, basically decorative, weaker than a slime, barely useful in combat even after evolving, with a pollen skill that takes forever to matter and a sleep effect about as threatening as a light breeze. Flying is nice, sure, until something out there can actually fly too. Among the 4 starting unit types, militia wins on raw damage while slimes apparently dominate on survivability, being nearly unkillable through sheer squishiness or undying soul fire, depending on the type. Goblins, meanwhile, contribute basically nothing except smell. Comparing my 2 elite lines, elite skeleton warriors edge out elite spearmen, thanks to their area attack skill being more efficient for crowd clearing, while spearmen's single-target launch move is better suited for isolated fights. Basically, skeletons for mobs, spearmen for duels. With that analysis wrapped up, I decide future recruitment should lean skeleton-heavy, keeping just enough militia to round out my human numbers. At the exchange scale, I finally cash in everything, ending up with a healthy mix of new militia and skeleton orbs. Back home, my total unit count creeps towards 60, putting territory level 2 within realistic reach in just a few more days if things keep going this well. After spending what feels like a small fortune in dust on recruiting and exchanging, I finally get everyone settled in, send Xiang Yun and Minghai out on fresh patrols north and south with their healed-up crews. And no, unfortunately, lunch break is not currently available in Xingyuan territory. I split my 2 lieutenants for scouting, Xiangyun north, keeping an eye on that sketchy cave, and Minghai southeast, checking how far the corruption spread without going too deep. This time I stay home, giving strict, run away if it's dangerous, orders like a nervous parent sending kids off on their first solo trip. The rest of my low-tier troops go gather resources, since I'm slowly stockpiling everything needed for a proper stone wall eventually. Not urgent, but not something I want to keep putting off forever either. I retreat to my hut for some quality lounging time, because unlike my units, I actually get a lunch break around here. I catch up on chat, and honestly, most lords seem to be doing fine now that the initial panic has worn off. The ones actually in danger obviously aren't posting anymore, which says plenty on its own. With my numbers climbing steadily, I keep the evolution machine running in the background, upgrading militia and skeletons into their skilled forms whenever I get a spare point, mostly to speed up resource gathering. Skeleton warriors chop trees like they're made of butter, plain skeletons take forever, and militia basically can't cut down anything without a small miracle. Evening rolls around. Xia Yuan returns first with fresh boar meat for dinner, followed by Minghai's crew soaked in far more blood, clearly having run into a lot more trouble down south. Their reports come in. North is mostly calm. Caves still just sitting there being mysterious, though corrupted monsters show up further east. South is messy. Minghai deliberately pushed toward the corrupted zone and ran into plenty of infected monsters along the way, roughly matching what we saw on the east side, which kills my hope of finding some sneaky weak spot to slip past the corruption ring. Looks like it's evenly surrounded on all sides. Annoyingly logical in the worst way. Then Xia Yuan drops something interesting. Signs of some kind of intelligent creature activity up north, though he wasn't sure if it was goblins or something else, and didn't push further given the fading daylight. Great. As if angry, mindless monsters weren't enough, now there might be smart ones plotting up north too. I make a mental note to investigate properly tomorrow. I send Xia Yuan off to start the campfire and Minghai to butcher the boars, briefly considering whether to keep the tusks for crafting weapons like other lords apparently do. Then remember my evolution power just auto-upgrades gear anyway, so why bother collecting fangs and pelts I have zero use for? Filed under, not my problem, and I toss the idea aside. While waiting on dinner, I check the day's other loot, then dash out quickly to the exchange scale before nightfall to convert everything into more skeletons and militia, making it back just before full dark, heart pounding the whole way, because walking through spooky forest at dusk is still objectively terrifying even with zero real danger. Back home, roasted boar meat is ready, and I make everyone else try it first because trust issues are healthy in a fantasy survival situation. Tastes decent, though nothing beats that bear meat from earlier. No seasoning really shows here. I offer Hualing a bite out of curiosity, and she takes one whiff before recoiling in absolute disgust, confirming once and for all that fairies apparently don't do meat. Testing the other fairies gets the exact same reaction. Vegetarians, all of them, bless their tiny plant-loving hearts. Explains why they've survived on nothing but fruit this whole time. Meanwhile, my human troops happily devour meat like it's a 5-star meal, and my skeletons don't eat at all, making them once again the ultimate low-maintenance army. Seriously, best investment I've ever made. Full and content. I let the fire burn down naturally instead of putting it out, taking a quiet moment to stare up at the 2 moons overhead and think. You know what? Despite everything, this whole ice sky thing turned out way more interesting than my old life ever was. After settling everyone into huts and distributing leveling dust until my reserves take a serious hit yet again, I squeeze in a couple more evolutions before bed. Right. As I'm about to sleep, a notification pings. Turns out Minghai, not Xia Yuan's other students, is the first one to master the throwing skill I mentioned offhand yesterday. I peek outside just long enough to see him proudly showing off to an approving Xia Yuan, surrounded by a crowd of still struggling students, before deciding I'm too tired to keep watching and heading to bed. Morning of day 5 arrives, and my back is still furious about that lumpy mattress. Checking my evolution points, I realize I've saved up enough to go on a serious upgrade spree. 6 militia and 18 skeletons all get promoted in one glorious batch, followed by 2 lucky ones jumping straight to elite tier. Watching my base fill up with fresh 2-star troops, I have to physically restrain myself from doing a victory lap around the whole territory. Then I turn to Hualing, who's practically vibrating with anticipation, clearly impatient for her own turn. All right, your turn, I laugh, unable to resist her eager little face. I reach out and activate evolution on her, and unlike the completely predictable spearmen and skeletons, I actually find myself genuinely curious what she's about to become. I wonder for a second why Hualing needed the same evolution points as Xia Yuan despite having 0 gear. Guess my earlier theory about equipment matching doesn't hold for everyone. The evolution finishes and Hualing comes out looking mostly the same, just slightly bigger, with a tiny flower bud sprouting on her head like a fashion accessory. She's absolutely delighted once she notices it, spinning around in the air with pure joy. Her new skill turns out to be a vine-based control move, not the support skill I expected. Testing shows it can only really tie down 2-star units, so it's a decent little self-defense tool, nothing game-breaking. Curious about my progress, I check the leaderboard and nearly do a double take. 7th place. Yesterday, I was barely cracking 20, and now I'm in the top 10. Given my unit count and quality, I guess it makes sense, though I can't help complaining that whoever's above me must be absolute monsters. Chat immediately explodes with people accusing me of cheating for jumping so fast, though thankfully some voices step in defending me, chalking it up to normal leaderboard shuffling. I quietly close the app before anyone digs deeper, silently agreeing with myself that surely other lords have their own hidden advantages too. After breakfast, I gather nearly my entire army, the biggest deployment I've ever led, and march north with a small mountain of spearmen and skeletons trailing behind me, feeling more protected than I've ever felt in this world. We pass the mysterious cave again, but I decide not to poke that bear yet, staying focused on today's real goal. Eventually, we reach the marked tree Xia Yuan found, covered in strange symbols clearly carved by something intelligent. I split my forces into 10-man search squads while keeping a core group around me for protection, since I refuse to compromise my own safety no matter how confident I feel. Watching my smart, skilled units handle random monster ambushes without needing direct orders is honestly satisfying. A huge step up from my early days of babysitting mindless militia through every single action. Hours pass with nothing to show for it. No camp, no more markings, nothing. I start theorizing out loud to Xia Yuan that maybe this intelligent creature isn't even a group. Maybe it's just one lone wanderer who left that mark ages ago and moved on. Xia Yuan, bless him, just looks genuinely confused by the whole concept, clearly out of his depth on abstract mystery solving. Eventually, I decide to shift strategy entirely. Instead of searching blind, we head straight toward the corruption zone itself, since if there is a hidden camp, that's probably where it's hiding. Bonus: with this much manpower, maybe we can finally push further into the corrupted area than ever before. I reorganize the group, putting Xia Yuan in full command of the main force this time, since dragging around this much firepower just to guard my body seems wasteful, keeping only my two most trusted 3-star units close. With a dramatic hand wave that I definitely didn't rehearse in my head beforehand, I give the order to march toward the corruption zone, wishing, just a little, that more of my units could actually shout back in response instead of just a scattered chorus from my handful of talkers. Having a huge army makes everything easier this time. We push forward way faster than yesterday, even though the noise seems to be pulling in more monsters than before. Doesn't matter though, my numbers crush the difference easily. Watching the corrupted monsters, I notice something funny. It's mostly wolves and jackals, with the occasional hyena brute mixed in, and my brain starts connecting dots that probably shouldn't be connected. For half a second, I genuinely wonder if wolves and jackals fuse together to create hyena men like some kind of monster Voltron. Then I catch myself being an idiot and just laugh it off. Enemy is enemy, no biology degree required. Xia Yuan and Minghai just stare at me like I've lost my mind, completely lost on why their lord is randomly cackling mid-mission. As we push deeper, 2-star monsters get thicker and slow our pace. Right as Xia Yuan finishes off another wolf, he spots something in the distance, what looks suspiciously like actual buildings. I squint hard and see absolutely nothing until we get closer, at which point I finally spot faint structures surrounded by a genuinely massive crowd of monsters. Way more than usual. I decide caution's the smarter move here, so I send Xia Yuan and Minghai ahead alone to scout, since they're both strong enough to bail if things go sideways. They sneak in and discover it's an actual village, way bigger and more fortified than that goblin camp, complete with stone walls, though most of those walls are now smashed to rubble. Monsters wander aimlessly around the ruins, mostly 2-star with a handful of hyena brutes, all somehow coexisting peacefully despite technically being different species gone feral. Xia Yuan finds that weirdly confusing but doesn't have time to philosophize about monster sociology. Then he spots something interesting. One hyena brute noticeably bigger than the rest, wielding a spiked club, standing guard near something that looks a lot like a treasure chest. Except this one's made of a fancier material than the wooden one from before. Xia Yuan immediately flashes back to his own humiliating chest wrestling incident and quietly decides not to relive that trauma today. Back with me, he and Minghai report everything. A decent-sized force roughly matching mine, mostly 2-star, plus 4 hyena brutes with one noticeably stronger than the others, plus that upgraded treasure chest sighting. My first instinct is retreat. If there really was an intelligent species here, they're clearly long gone or dead, meaning there's no real threat left to clear, just risk for risk's sake. But the mention of a fancier chest completely changes my calculus. If a basic wooden chest gave me a rare scroll and a building blueprint, this upgraded version could be seriously good. I run the math. My army roughly matches. There's in numbers and quality, and even though their monsters are higher level, they're all mindless and skill-less, while my units have actual technique and intelligence on their side. One good skill hit to a weak point evens out a level gap fast. Feeling good about the odds, I briefed Xia Yuan and Ming Hai, who confirmed from experience that a properly placed skill attack can drop enemies several levels higher, as long as you hit something vital, eyes, throat, that sort of thing. Most of the enemy roster is agile-type wolves and jackals anyway, easy targets for precision strikes, with just a couple tanky bears that my B team can handle. To maximize our odds, I have Xia Yuan and Ming Hai run quick tactical briefings with the troops and send runners back home for reinforcements, grabbing my remaining lower-level skeletons just to pad our numbers and cover me directly. With everyone briefed and positioned, I hand out assignments. Xia Yuan takes the biggest hyena brute, with Ming Hai backing him up if things go bad. My other elite spearmen and skeleton take the remaining 2 normal hyena brutes. Everyone else splits between bears and general 2-star cleanup. Battle formation set. I retreat safely behind a wall of skeletons, close enough to support, far enough to not immediately die. The moment we advance, every monster in the area goes feral crazy and charges. Xia Yuan calls a defensive halt, letting the horde crash straight into a wall of braced spears and shields instead of catching anyone off guard. Then the big one bursts through a broken section of wall, slamming its club down and charging straight for our front line faster than anything else out there. Xia Yuan's expression turns serious. Ming Hai offers backup, but Xia Yuan tells him to handle the other hyena brutes first and only step in if things go south. His usual, ambush and gang up, save the pride for people who enjoy dying, philosophy holding strong. That's when I finally get a good look at the beast myself. Level 1, Tier 2, 3-star. My stomach drops. I haven't even seen a max level Tier 1 monster yet, and suddenly there's a full Tier 2 enemy standing right in front of my best unit. I open my mouth to scream a warning, but Xia Yuan's already moving to meet it head-on. Xia Yuan meets the huge hyena head-on, and it fires back a red energy claw that shatters his own attack completely, forcing him to dodge for his life as the thing carves a trench in the dirt beside him. I nearly stop breathing watching from the back. Turns out ranged energy attacks aren't just a special skeleton and spearman thing after all. Even mindless monsters can pull it off once they're strong enough. Realizing this beast could wreck my other units if it stays close to the group, Xia Yuan baits it away to open ground, dragging it further from everyone else while Ming Hai and a squad peel off to block anything trying to follow. Out in the clearing, Xia Yuan dodges a crushing club swing, launches the hyena into the air with his hook skill, then follows up with a stab, only for the beast to swing its weapon back midair like it's ready to trade hits 1-for-1, no self-preservation whatsoever. Xia Yuan deflects instead of trading blows, feeling the impact rattle all the way up his arm. Strong. Way stronger than expected. Elsewhere, my other units are cutting through the horde with clean, practice strikes. One skewered face first, another gutted mid-charge, the numbers advantage turning this into a rout fast. Ming Hai finishes his own target with a single sweeping slash, then rockets over to help Xia Yuan. I about lose my mind watching Ming Hai one-shot a hyena that's only slightly weaker than my strongest unit. Didn't know he had that in him. Together, Xia Yuan and Ming Hai dismantle the big hyena in minutes. Ming Hai severing its weapon arm, Xia Yuan finishing it with a clean headshot. Not a single death on my side, just some rough injuries. Way better outcome than I expected going in. I make sure to personally praise every single unit by name, because apparently that's just who I am now, a guy who hands out participation trophies to skeletons. Walking into the ruined village afterward, I try asking Xia Yuan how long ago the fighting happened here. He genuinely has no idea, bless him, and I remind myself he's strong, not a forensic investigator. Inside, dozens of broken houses stretch out, clearly handmade, not system-built. which confirms someone intelligent actually lived here before getting wiped out. No bodies anywhere, though, which raises more questions than answers. Did they escape, or just get erased like monster loot after death? Then my skeletons dig up something interesting under a fallen stone, a broken pickaxe, followed by several intact ones scattered around. Immediately my brain connects the dots to that mysterious cave up north. Maybe these people fled there when the monsters came. Filing that mystery away for later, I finally reach the real prize. A chest, except this one's iron, not wood. I say a quick prayer to whatever cosmic force is running this world, then open it without hesitation. And it delivers. Big time. A 3-star Falcon recruitment orb, a rare gemstone pouch, a rare key that apparently opens any barrier, a rare fire staff, and a rare blueprint for something called an observation stone. Everything except the orb is rare tier, and even that orb alone is worth a fortune given how few 3-star units exist right now. The gemstone pouch turns out to hold an entirely new tier of crystals I've never seen. Lightning, ice, light, and dark, plus upgraded rare versions of the fire and water ones I already knew. 12 total, 2 of each type. Apparently regular crystals were just the beginner tier all along. The key claims it can open any barrier, which sounds fancy even if I have zero idea what that means yet. And the staff, my first actual magic weapon. Carved wood inlaid with a glowing fire-red gem, elegant, simple, and about the same weight as my sword. I try the fire staff myself, but since I've got zero magic in my veins, it's basically an expensive stick. I hand it to Xia Yuan hoping his energy powers translate. But no dice. Turns out his ability and actual magic are two completely different systems. Guess I've got myself a fancy paperweight until I find someone who can actually use it. The blueprint turns out to be for something called an observation stone. Lets me remotely watch through the eyes of a marked unit. Which is basically exactly what I've been dreaming about this whole time, minus one catch. It probably won't show monster stats the way I can see them personally. Still incredibly useful, just not a total replacement for me tagging along on dangerous trips. I send Minghai to search the rest of the ruined village while I collect loot from the battlefield outside. All told, today's haul is solid. Plenty of dust, resource pouches, food pouches, and a good spread of recruitment orbs, though lighter than yesterday since most of the day went to scouting instead of straight combat. Minghai's search turns up something genuinely useful too. A stash of iron ore in what looks like an old blacksmith shop, plus a bunch of usable pickaxes. Free resources are always welcome, especially ones I usually only get from lucky pouch drops. By the time we've thoroughly picked the place clean, it's getting late, so I call it and head home. But not before having Xia Yuan bag some clean, non-corrupted meat for dinner along the way. Passing that mysterious cave again, I make myself a promise. The second the corruption route is dealt with, that cave is priority number 1. Given how today went, even against a tier 2 monster, I feel genuinely confident we could clear the corruption zone within a few days. Before heading all the way home, I stop by the exchange scale to convert my haul. A few more militia to round out my human numbers, since food capacity is still my limiting factor there, and the rest into skeletons, keeping only that rare falcon orb aside. Home again just as the sun sets, exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with physical effort and everything to do with an entire day of tension. Hualing greets me with her usual cheerful energy, though when I ask about her fruit tree experiment, her face falls. No luck yet. I reassure her that failure's just part of the process, and she perks right back up. Ridiculously easy to cheer up, that one. At the altar, I finally recruit the falcon orb, half hoping for something impressive. What comes out looks like a fairly ordinary hawk, a little dull-eyed for something with elite in its name, but it does come with a built-in skill boosting its already excellent eyesight. First time I've seen a freshly recruited unit arrive with a skill already attached. I name her Ingyu, mostly because it sounds nice and I'm rapidly running out of creative naming energy. Testing shows she's fast, laughably faster than Hualing in the air, but weaker in combat and pretty fragile compared to my ground units. A scout, not a fighter, which is honestly exactly what I need. With the last of my resources, I finally build the observation stone, using those rare crystals from the chest since there was no way I'd have gotten materials for this otherwise. Once it's up, I marked Xia Yuan's second in command with the viewing tag just to test it. and it works exactly like some kind of magical security camera, showing his exact viewpoint in real time. I switched the tag over to Yu instead, since watching through a flying scout's eyes is infinitely more useful than watching through a soldier's. Turns out I can only tag one unit at a time, which limits things a bit. But hey, free real-time recon whenever I need it is still an incredible upgrade from squinting at distant blobs and hoping for the best. I sending you up for a test flight, watching through my new toy while she circles overhead. Problem is, it's pitch black out, so all I get is a blurry mess of shifting shadows barely lit by moonlight. Still, since I already spent the resources, I force myself to stare at the useless nighttime static for a solid 10 minutes before finally giving up and calling it a night. I evolve the new militia. Batch into spearmen, hand out leveling dust to everyone. Wince at how little dust I have left, then crash hard once I hit the bed. Today wore me out more than any fight has so far. While I sleep, my little army keeps grinding away without me. Xia Yuan keeps teaching the throwing skill, discovering along the way that it actually requires a certain level of smarts to learn, something my weaker 2-star troops just don't have yet. Eventually, one of my other elite spearmen finally masters it, earning a proud shoulder pat from his mentor. Afterward, Xia Yuan and Minghai run coordination drills with their squads away from camp so they don't disturb my beauty sleep. Xia Yuan's group falls into formation easily thanks to his experience, while Minghai struggles wrangling his much bigger squad of skeletons into anything resembling order, though he slowly gets the hang of it with some coaching. Once training wraps, the two of them settle into their real passion project, experimenting with their own energy techniques late into the night. Xia Yuan discovers he can combine 2 attacks into one stronger burst, though the energy cost is brutal. Barely enough juice for 3 uses before needing a recharge. He shares the technique with Minghai immediately. No ego, no hoarding secrets between them. Minghai, meanwhile, gets curious about the fire staff I lent to Xia Yuan earlier, only to realize the energy inside it operates on a completely different system from what either of them naturally uses, something apparently called magic, according to me. Deciding it's above his current understanding, he shelves the mystery for later and goes back to basics, absorbing dust and grinding levels. Morning of day 6 arrives, and checking everyone's stats shows Xia Yuan and Minghai both hit level 6 overnight. Faster than I expected, actually. I check the leaderboard, half expecting some minor bump. 3rd place. I nearly do a victory lap around my own bedroom. Feeling smug, I open chat expecting a flood of people freaking out about my meteoric rise. Instead, I find total chaos over something completely different. Apparently, some big shot lord leaked a claim overnight that leveling your territory to rank 2 unlocks a way back to Earth through the Lord's altar. My good mood evaporates instantly. My hands actually start shaking a little as I scroll through message after message of people debating whether it's true. I check my own progress toward rank 2. Dust and unit count are the only things still missing, and barely at that. Materials are already stockpiled thanks to that ruined village hall. Trying to steady myself, I head out to evolve Minghai next. My evolution points are stacked and ready. I decide to hold off on Hualing and Yu until they've got enough for a proper rare tier jump, and focus the undead points on Minghai now that they've built up plenty. Finding him mid-conversation with Xia Yuan, I can't resist hamming it up a little. Clearing my throat, straightening my rumpled clothes, putting on my best, noble lord bestowing an honor, voice. Minghai, in recognition of your outstanding service and countless kills in defense of this territory, I hereby grant you evolution. He clearly doesn't understand half of what I just said, but evolution registers loud and clear right before the glow envelopes him. He comes out the other side slightly upgraded rather than fully transformed. Better gear, sharper claw, same general silhouette. Now officially rare tier with a new charging skill that lets him rush an enemy and stun them with his shield. Testing shows his raw power roughly doubled again, enough to actually give Xia Yuan a real fight in a sparring match, which is honestly wild considering where this skeleton started as a random 1-star pull. I do some quick math on the numbers and realize something interesting. Evolution boosts stats by roughly double each time, but factoring in new skills and smarts, the real power jump is way bigger than the raw numbers suggest. Which explains why that mindless hyena brute yesterday could go toe-to-toe with Xia Yuan despite having zero technique. Imagine if that thing actually had a brain to match its muscle. Terrifying thought. Good thing it didn't. Realizing levels matter more than I thought, I decide to bank my human evolution points until I can push Xia Yuan to the next tier instead of spreading them thin. After breakfast, I send my 2 lieutenants out, Xia Yuan sweeping wider around the base, Minghai pushing east specifically to farm recruitment orbs from corrupted monsters without going too deep. With the base emptied out, I finally get to test my new toy properly. I sending you off to scout east, though explaining, fly for about half an hour, to a bird with the intelligence of, well, a bird, takes some creative simplifying on my part. Immediately, I start second-guessing whether recruiting her was even a good call. Watching through the observation stone, the daytime view is crystal clear compared to last night's useless static. Mostly just endless trees, though. Then I spot Minghai's squad marching below. Right as Minghai suddenly senses he's being watched, stops his whole group, and scans the area in alarm. He eventually spots Yu circling overhead and relaxes once he clocks the tracking mark on her forehead, realizing I'm basically watching him through security cam. His confused little moment is honestly the highlight of my morning. Yu keeps flying, and the trees below start thinning out fast, an ugly, undeniable visual of just how much damage this corruption thing is doing to the landscape. Then, briefly, I spot something big, a massive gathering of monsters, easily matching yesterday's village horde in size. Before I can get a proper look, Yu flies clean out of viewing range, and the screen just cuts to black. I nearly throw my drink, except I don't have a drink, so I just sit there staring at nothing, mildly panicking. Turns out I badly underestimated how fast she actually flies. Barely 10 minutes in, and she'd already blown past my viewing radius without even trying. If she went full speed, she'd probably clear the whole zone in a couple minutes flat. With no way to reach her or check on her safety until she wanders back into range, I'm left biting my nails hoping my brand new scout doesn't get herself killed on day 1 because I gave vague, bird-brained instructions. While waiting, I pieced together what I saw. That huge monster gathering was likely the corruption route itself, especially since it lines up with everything I've heard about guardian monsters clustering around it. I also caught a glimpse of several hyena brutes in that crowd, though I couldn't confirm if any were Tier 2 like yesterday's nightmare. Given that uncertainty, I decide not to rush anything. Better to build up more strength first and go in with overwhelming force later, rather than risk getting caught off guard by another surprise upgrade. 20 agonizingly long minutes later, the observation stone finally flickers back to life, showing a fast-moving view once again. I nearly collapse with relief. She made it back in one piece. Yu makes it back safe, and I scold her a little out of pure relief, rubbing her head and telling her she gave me a heart attack. After that, I ease up on her flight time and send her out again with shorter trips. By midday, between her scouting runs and the observation stone, I've mapped a good chunk of the area around my base. Turns out only the east side is a nightmare zone. The other 3 directions are just endless forest with nothing scarier lurking in the open. Doesn't mean I trust it completely though, since anything could be hiding under all that canopy where the bird can't see. Xia Yuan and Minghai come back safe with a solid haul, and I immediately trade the orbs at the exchange scale for more skeletons, finally crossing the population threshold I needed. I rush straight to the territory heart, and, with zero hesitation, hit upgrade. And nothing happens. No flashy lights, no dramatic sound effect, just a plain little notification saying congratulations, you leveled up. Kind of anticlimactic for something I'd been hyping up in my head all morning. The only real change is a new building option, farmland, which makes total sense once I think about it. 100+ units means 100+ mouths to feed, and someone's got to grow the food. Curious, I check my other buildings and discover the Lord's Manor now shows 0 upgrade cost, like some kind of loyalty reward. I don't question good fortune, I just take it. This time the upgrade actually looks satisfying. Glowing light, transformation animation, the whole show. My tiny wooden shack becomes an actual stone house with a real bedroom, living room, and kitchen, complete with an old-school hearth. Genuinely feels like moving up in the world after days of sleeping on lumpy straw. Since resources are no longer an issue, I go on an upgrade spree across the whole base. Everything gets bigger and better. Housing feels less cramped, storage expands. The bathhouse gets actual hot water and some kind of magical hairdryer. Toilet paper somehow gets even softer. The arrow tower hits harder and farther, and crop growth speeds up even more. With everything upgraded, there's only one thing left to check. I walk toward the Lord's altar, heart pounding, desperately hoping the rumor about going home isn't just wishful thinking from some random poster online. Standing before the altar, my heart's doing something weird. Honestly, my life back on Earth wasn't much. No job, no family left after the accident. I shouldn't care either way. But some stubborn little part of me really wants this rumor to be true. I shake off the sappy thoughts and step onto the altar. A message pops up asking if I want to travel to Earth, with a dust cost attached. It's real. The rumor's actually real. Before jumping, though, I briefed Xia Yuan and Minghai. Tell them I'm heading out briefly, back by tomorrow morning at the latest. Territories there's to manage in the meantime. They nod along, clearly confused about the logistics, but trusting me anyway. I pay the dust and get swallowed by silver light. The second I'm gone, Minghai, because of course it's Minghai, immediately walks onto the altar himself just to see what happens. Nothing does. He just stands there, disappointed and confused. Meanwhile, I land back in my crappy apartment with the world spinning around me for a second. I actually pinch myself to make sure it's real. First order of business, shower and fresh clothes, because these ones have survived multiple monster fights, campfires, and river baths, and are basically held together by luck at this point. Then my hand starts heating up, and a system message explains the deal. I've got 24 hours here before I'm automatically yanked back, with penalties if I stall. Also, all my system powers are locked while I'm on Earth. I'm just a regular guy again. A soft, unarmored, swordless regular guy. Checking my hand, a silver mark appears, some kind of half-altar rune called a provisional Lord's Mark, presumably becoming a full mark once I actually complete this whole trial thing. After cleaning up, I check my phone and realize 6 days passed here too. Guess time flows the same on both sides. More interesting to me, though, is realizing I definitely had my phone and keys on me the moment I got yanked into that other world, yet arrived there with literally nothing but my clothes. So apparently physical items just don't make the trip. I check my phone for messages, fully expecting nothing since I'm about as socially connected as a houseplant, and yep, radio silence. Not a single soul noticed I vanished for 6 days. Kind of funny, kind of depressing, mostly just funny. Curious whether the outside world's in an uproar over a bunch of people vanishing simultaneously. I search online expecting chaos and panic headlines. Instead, nothing. Total silence on the topic, which strikes me as way weirder than actual panic would be. Then it clicks. Maybe it's not suppressed. Maybe it's just filed under a different search term entirely. I type in something related to this whole land of divine grace business instead. And there it is. Buried among gaming forums and random fiction sites, one link stands out. I click it, and as the page loads, the background image alone tells me I've just found exactly what I was looking for. The background image says it all: slime, goblin, skeleton, militia, the exact same starting units I know by heart. Suddenly, a mystery clicks into place. This explains that broken altar in the goblin camp. We're not the first batch sent to that world. There were people before us. Getting into the forum means answering a verification question, which honestly doubles as free confirmation I'm in the right place. A question only someone who's actually leveled up their territory could answer. I type it in without breaking a sweat, and I'm in. The information dump that follows is incredible. Unit quality tiers, higher realms beyond what I've seen, buildings, skills, hidden zones. I devour every post like a starving man at a buffet, genuinely annoyed that earlier lords apparently had zero communication system and had to figure everything out blind while I get chat functions and Googleable forums. Meanwhile, somewhere else entirely, a guy named Luo Gu is sprawled across his office desk, grumbling about how unfair it is that this new batch of lords gets a chat feature to swap intel, while his own group had to learn everything the hard way. His phone buzzes with a call from his boss, informing him someone new just returned to Earth in his assigned region, and that it's his job to go make first contact. Luo Gu whines about always getting stuck with the awkward doorstep visits, especially remembering some terrifying past lord named Quang Hu, who apparently made his life miserable. His boss brushes him off with zero sympathy and hangs up mid-complaint. Dragging himself out of his chair, Luo Gu heads over, muttering the whole way about hoping this new lord is just a lucky, randomly fast riser instead of another nightmare to deal with. He decides on his opening approach, walks up to my door, imitates a doorbell sound, and knocks. Meanwhile, I'm mid-panic, having just read a forum post claiming that where I currently am isn't even the real land of divine grace. Apparently, it's some kind of trial. Pocket dimension, and only after finishing the trial do I get sent to the actual world, at which point all these convenient wild buildings and the system itself supposedly vanish. That's exactly the moment someone starts knocking on my door, doing a terrible fake doorbell noise. I mutter something about not even owning a doorbell, then realize someone's actually at my door. Not taking chances, I grab a kitchen knife before cautiously answering. Standing there is a relaxed, slightly disheveled guy in his 30s, and right behind him, someone in full wizard robes complete with a pointed blue hat, looking exactly like something straight out of a fantasy movie. A unit. A real, undeniable Lord-summoned unit, standing casually in my apartment hallway. The guy introduces himself as Luo Gu, hands me a business card with basically zero information on it besides a name and phone number, and politely invites himself in for a chat. I let them both inside, mildly baffled that barely minutes after returning to Earth, another lord is already showing up at my door. Once seated with nothing but tap water to offer as hospitality, Luo Gu gets straight to business. Turns out he's also a lord, confirming there were indeed groups before mine who already went through this whole ordeal. He notices my browser tab still open on that revealing forum post and reassures me. Becoming a full lord doesn't erase the system entirely, just strips away convenience features like inventory space and enemy scanning. Since the whole trial phase was basically an extended tutorial with training wheel bonuses. Then he drops the real reason for his visit. Because the system's summoning process apparently makes waves big enough for governments to notice, countries have organized official coalitions of lords to manage the situation. And our country's version has an official name: the Great Xia Alliance. Luo Gu explains he's part of some regional branch of this Great Xia Alliance, and mentions offhand that the summoning happens every 6 months, and my group happens to be the 5th wave. I nod along, already having guessed some kind of official organization existed the moment I found that forum. I ask if he's here to recruit me. He laughs and gives me the most unhelpful answer possible: yes and no. Turns out membership requires actually finishing the trial and becoming a real lord first, which I clearly haven't done yet since I'm barely a week into this whole mess. His actual reason for showing up is to flex a little and give me a gentle warning. Apparently people like me, lucky, fast-rising newcomers, tend to develop main character syndrome once they get home, especially the ones with money or connections who start acting untouchable. So the Alliance sends people around specifically to humble these chosen ones early, reminding them they're still just regular people on Earth, with plenty of others stronger and more established than them. Basically, don't get cocky, don't cause trouble, because cleanup duty for arrogant new lords apparently gives everyone in the organization headaches twice a year. He admits I don't seem like the troublemaking type, so he skips the usual intimidation routine and just lays it out straight. Be quiet, don't cause chaos. Which, honestly, suits me fine. I've never wanted main character drama in my actual life. The last thing I need is becoming some tabloid headline about a superpowered maniac terrorizing the neighborhood. Then, out of nowhere, he asks if I want to join the Alliance anyway, despite what he just said about requirements. Confused, I point out the contradiction, and he explains that for people like me, fast climbers who are basically guaranteed to pass the trial, the entry bar gets lowered as long as we don't screw up along the way. Curious about this chosen one label he keeps throwing around, I ask what he means by it. He laughs and references cheesy novel tropes. Heroes who trip over treasure, fall off cliffs into secret martial arts manuals, always getting exactly what they need at exactly the right moment. People rocketing to power in days while everyone else grinds for months. Given that I hit level 2 territory and over 100 units inside a week, apparently I check every box. I rub the back of my neck awkwardly, since while my progress isn't purely luck-based like he assumes, it does technically match the pattern he's describing. He waves off my embarrassment, calling luck a form of strength in its own right. and even encourages me to keep hunting treasure chests since apparently they only exist during the trial phase. Once you graduate into the actual world, that convenient loot mechanic disappears entirely. Sensing my hesitation about joining, he decides to actually sell me on the idea properly, admitting he wouldn't normally bother explaining this much if he didn't like my vibe. He reassures me joining doesn't mean the Alliance controls my territory. He explains just how massive the actual land of divine grace is. Nobody's even mapped its full size yet, and the current combined territory held by the Alliance alone already rivals all of Earth put together. Which means, despite feeling safe now, becoming an actual full-fledged lord doesn't mean smooth sailing. If anything, that's when the real danger starts. New lords get dropped randomly into the wilderness, usually somewhere near Alliance territory thanks to some spatial rule, but wilderness nonetheless. And as your territory grows more established, it starts drawing serious attention. Eventually enemies come knocking hard, and most lords who make it that far still don't survive what comes next. Luo Gu tosses out a friendly warning. Never try surrendering to the monsters, because they simply don't accept it. Losing your territory doesn't mean death though, and the usual advice for rookie lords is to grab their units and retreat somewhere safe. Since even without a base, having a surviving squad still beats being some helpless nobody. I asked the obvious follow-up. If it's that dangerous, why not just stay hidden on Earth forever? He grins like he expected exactly that question and explains the loophole. Once you're a real lord, you get a month on Earth instead of a day. But eventually you're forced back regardless, ready or not. And showing up to a destroyed home base with 0 units left is basically a death sentence waiting to happen. He also mentions that lords who want to flee into Alliance territory can get an escort, but it comes with a heavy price tag you'll be paying off for who knows how long. I can't help internally groaning. Great. Even in a fantasy apocalypse, I somehow still end up in debt. Then he lays out the real options. Partner deeply with the Alliance and get rapid support in exchange for shared control over your territory, or go fully independent and rely purely on your own strength with some baseline support, like their information network and occasional resource grants, provided you prove yourself worth investing in. He adds that lords under the Alliance mostly cooperate rather than fight dirty with each other, trading resources and info, and hopes that once I get strong, I'll help out weaker lords down the line. Without hesitating, I tell him I'm in. Realistically, joining doesn't cost me much, no harsh restrictions, decent perks, and since an actual government rep already tracked me down personally, refusing wouldn't really change my situation much anyway. Plus, having a safety net in case things go catastrophically wrong someday feels like basic common sense. Luo Gu congratulates me in advance, treating my eventual success like a foregone conclusion, then asks which path I plan to take once I officially graduate to full lord status. I turn the question back on him first, curious. He laughs and admits he's the lazy type, so naturally he picked the let the government handle everything route, which is exactly why he's got free time to go knock on newbie doors like mine. Then I answer honestly, I'm going fully independent. He nods like he called it from the start. Apparently, every chosen one type he's met gives the exact same answer. He respects it, even if it's a path he personally couldn't stomach, admitting the Alliance genuinely wants more lords willing to expand their territory the hard way. He gives me one last serious warning. The independent path is the freest, but also the hardest, and plenty of lords who choose it either quit or die along the way. Sure, the obligations are lighter, mostly just loosely following Alliance strategy and occasionally lending a hand during emergencies, but freedom out here is never truly free. He asks if I'm sure about my choice one more time. I tell him, without any doubt, that I am. Luo Gu hops up the second I confirm my choice, ready to head straight to the association office to make it official. I'm a little thrown by how fast this is moving, but he just shrugs it off. Faster paperwork means faster perks, and honestly, one less trip for him too. Walking to his car, I notice something weird. Everyone we pass completely ignores the wizard trailing behind us like he's invisible. Luo Gu catches my confusion and casually mentions it's some kind of minor trick I'll understand once I have my own mage-type units. Or I can just look it up on the forum later. He also clarifies I won't be able to summon my own units into the real world until I'm officially a full lord. At the car, I ask why the wizard isn't joining us. Luo Gu just laughs, says keeping him around drains energy, waves his hand, and the wizard vanishes instantly. Interesting party trick. On the drive over, I finally ask something that's been nagging me. What happens to lords whose altars get destroyed or who die during the trial phase? His expression darkens for a second before he answers honestly. Death. Straight up. No loopholes, no second chances. Altar destroyed or killed by monsters. Either way, you're just gone. Often without even leaving a body behind, which apparently makes cleanup an absolute nightmare for people like him. He sighs, mentioning how these mass summonings happening every 6 months means eventually the whole planet's going to be full of lords, joking he's not sure if that's good or bad, then tells me not to worry about the big picture stuff since that's above both our pay grades. Eventually we arrive at the association building, and I can't help feeling a little let down. It just looks like a completely ordinary office building. Luo Gu teases me for judging a book by its cover, revealing there's more going on inside than meets the eye, and that regular people are subtly conditioned to just ignore this building's existence entirely. Somehow that little detail does make the place feel cooler. Inside, I'm surprised by how many people are actually working here, since I assumed most lords would be permanently stuck in the other world. Turns out most staff are lords like Luo Gu who chose the government partnership route, giving them free time on Earth to handle admin work, rotating in shifts every month. Luo Gu himself is due to rotate out next week, which apparently is exactly why he's annoyed about this whole visit. He'd been planning to coast through his final easy week before handing off duty to a coworker, only for a fast-rising newcomer to show up right in his territory instead. He mutters something under his breath about making some guy named Kwanghu bleed once he's back in the other world, rubbing his eyes like the memory physically pains him. When I ask what he's talking about, he brushes it off immediately and hands me a freshly printed sheet of paper, the official Great Xia Pact, telling me signing it makes me an official member. Staring at this obviously just printed piece of paper, I have to bite my tongue to avoid saying something snarky. Luo Gu, clearly reading my face perfectly, laughs and admits it does look ridiculously casual for something representing a massive international organization. No fancy contract, no legal formalities, just a signature on regular printer paper. He explains the logic though. Contracts on Earth mean nothing to someone whose real stakes exist in another dimension entirely, and most lords who pick the independent path specifically value freedom over bureaucracy anyway. So the Alliance keeps it deliberately simple, treating a sign name as enough proof of trust. Hearing that reasoning, it actually makes a lot of sense. Turns out actual binding contracts do exist within the Alliance, just not for people like me. Those are reserved for lords who go the deep partnership route, something I could still switch to later if going solo ever gets too rough. He reassures me the contract doesn't chain anyone down against their will either, using his own cushy office job as proof that lords still choose their own path, even under partnership. With nothing left to hesitate over, I sign my name on the sheet without a second thought. He shakes my hand, officially welcoming me aboard, and I awkwardly thank him for the handshake like some kind of business meeting cosplay. Then comes the disappointing part. Since I'm not technically a lord yet, and I'm not even physically in the other world right now, there's basically nothing material the Alliance can send my way. All I get for now is access to their private forum, way more detailed than the public one I found earlier. He promises to send me the link and invite code afterward. I take it in stride, since honestly, I already expected this. Investing real resources into someone who might not even survive the trial phase would be a waste on their end anyway. Since I clearly live pretty far from the office, he insists on getting me home instead of letting me manage it myself. I try waving him off out of politeness, but he brushes it aside completely, snapping his fingers to summon his wizard again, saying he's got the fastest way to send me home. Before I can ask what fastest way means, a magic circle lights up under my feet, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting on the ground outside my apartment door like I just got yeeted through space. Turns out teleportation is a real thing his unit can do, which makes me wonder why we bothered driving to the office in the first place instead of just zapping there directly. Then it hits me. Was that whole car ride some kind of subtle intimidation tactic? Showing off resources on purpose? Meanwhile, completely unaware of my suspicion, Luo Gu is back at the office rubbing his temples in actual pain, grumbling about how expensive long-distance teleporting turned out to be. and quietly hoping I'm not the petty type who'll hold a little tumble against him. I'm definitely not that petty, mostly because I'm too hungry to care about anything except food, having survived on nothing but wild fruit since breakfast. I head straight to the nearest restaurant and order way too much stir-fry, practically inhaling it after days of dried meat and bland fruit. Real food never tasted so good. I eat until I physically can't anymore, catch a stranger staring at me like I just escaped a famine, and pay up quickly before making my exit, thoroughly stuffed and mildly embarrassed. Walking home, stomach painfully full, I catch myself wishing the trip back to Earth didn't cost dust every time. 100 grams a pop isn't exactly pocket change for someone at my stage. Then a notification pings, Luo Go, apologizing for forgetting to send over the forum link and invite code earlier. I thank him and register an account the second I get home. The difference in quality compared to that public forum is night and day. Way more detailed, way more useful information across the board. I dive in immediately, greedily soaking up everything I can. Then I stumble across a post about unit self-awareness, and after reading it a few times carefully, everything suddenly makes a lot more sense. I finally understand how units actually rank in intelligence. Low-tier units like militia and skeletons just follow orders like robots. Mid-tier ones develop enough awareness to hold conversations, and top-tier units become fully self-aware, capable of learning and growing on their own. Basically unstoppable compared to anything at their same level. I immediately think of Xia Yuan and Ming Hai. Obviously top-tier material, no question. Meanwhile, Spearman 2 and my other skeleton lieutenant fit neatly into the mid-tier category. It's a satisfying little, that explains everything moment. The way I see it, quality is basically talent, and level is basically cultivation progress. Low-talent units grow slow and hit walls. High-talent units breeze past everything. Except none of that really applies to me, since my evolution power just cheats every unit into genius tier regardless of how they started. Basically, I'm out here handing free talent upgrades like some kind of divine HR department. Then I stumble onto a genuinely juicy thread, a debate about which country's lords are dominating this cycle's rankings. People arguing over unit quality versus quantity, whether fast progress actually means anything. Folks bickering about, snowballing, theories not really applying this early when a lucky chest could flip the whole table. Classic internet nonsense, honestly kind of comforting in its familiarity. Digging deeper, I learn about something called the trial tournament, happening on day 16, some mysterious event that's existed since the very first summoning wave, purpose unknown even to the forums. Apparently, every lord in training across the entire planet gets to compete against each other, not just within one country, with serious rewards on the line. First place gets an actual hero recruitment token. Turns out entry requires clearing your corruption route before day 16, and nobody actually dies or gets hurt during the matches themselves, which makes it way less terrifying to think about. I dig into what a hero recruitment token even does and learn heroes are basically the next tier above regular units, recruited either through tokens, special trial, certificates, or rare wild encounters. Naturally, my brain immediately goes, I bet I could win that. Not out of arrogance exactly, just quiet confidence in my ridiculous cheat power. Unless someone else out there has an even more broken gift than mine, I don't see anyone catching up to me at this stage. By the time I finally tear myself away from research mode, it's already deep into the night. I stretch, decide I've absorbed about all the knowledge I can handle for one sitting, and head out for a late-night snack before bed, since tomorrow morning means heading back to the other world. Walking through the night market, surrounded by crowds and delicious smells, I feel genuinely relaxed for the first time in days. Sure, nothing truly dangerous happened to me over there, but living constantly surrounded by monsters never really lets you fully unwind. I can't help wondering how earlier lords survived that stress without even a chat function to distract them. Respect, honestly. I grab a big bowl of spicy hot pot skewers and head home satisfied. Next morning, sunlight pours through the window, and waking up on an actual soft mattress after days of lumpy straw beds feels almost disorienting in how good it feels. After washing up, I deliberately layer on several extra outfits before heading out. According to the forum, you can't bring any items back into the trial world, not even something small in your pocket, but clothing worn directly on your body apparently slips through that restriction. So today, I'm dressing like an onion, purely so I don't have to keep wearing the same increasingly ragged outfit day after day. I check the time and figure it's day 7 now. Touching the mark on my hand, everything spins for a second, and boom, I'm back on the altar, no stumbling this time. Unlike Luo Ji's teleport disaster. Way smoother ride. Honestly, Xiangyun spots me right away and jogs over mid-training, ready to give me a full report since I told them to hold off on new orders until I got back. Hold on, let me strip first, I tell him, ducking into my house to peel off the 5 layers of clothing I brought back like some overheating onion. Feels amazing to be down to 1 outfit again. Xiangyun runs through everything. Cleared the 2-kilometer radius like ordered, tracked every bit of dust spent, every unit fed, every resource used. Down to the last detail. I'm honestly impressed. Turns out my top general doubles as an accountant too. Then I notice something missing. Where's Yu? Turns out she's out flying around with Hualing riding on her back, which throws me for a loop since Hualing was terrified of her just 2 days ago. Xiangyun shrugs. No idea how that friendship happened so fast, since apparently everyone gets along with him regardless, so he's never had to think about interpersonal drama. I decide not to question good vibes, and let him get back to work. Going through yesterday's loot, dust is running low. Makes sense since leveling costs scale up fast, and I've learned skeletons actually need dust to sustain themselves too. Turns out undead aren't perpetual motion machines after all. They just consume way less than everyone else, which is why I never noticed before. Minghai and his crew burn through more since I've been feeding him generously, so no risk of my walking corpses starving anytime soon. Recruitment orbs came in decent, plus some resource pouches and a basic shield. Nothing spectacular, though I've learned these resource pouches are actually trial-exclusive freebies that disappear entirely once you graduate to the real world. Good to know they're worth hoarding while they last. Doing quick math on drop rates, I realize at this pace I'm looking at maybe 20 new units a day going forward, which puts my dream of hitting 1,000 troops during the trial period in serious doubt, unless that rumor about a boosted, beginner's luck phase is actually real, which apparently not everyone agrees on. Deciding theorizing gets me nowhere. I check my evolution points instead, which have grown a ton overnight, especially on the undead side. Sadly, still nowhere close to what Minghai needs for his next big jump, so I redirect everything into upgrading a big batch of lower-tier skeletons instead, turning a solid chunk of my basic troops into stronger warriors in one satisfying wave. My undead army is looking massive now. Dozens of skeleton warriors, a handful of elites, even a few rare-tier ones. I look at this bone army with pure pride. Some little corruption root doesn't stand a chance against this. My human side, meanwhile, only gets 1 new elite promotion, since I'm saving everything for Xiangyun. Worth it. I call him over, skip the theatrical speech this time, and just hit him with the evolution power straight up. He comes out the other side looking sharper, more decorated, practically radiating authority now. But then something catches my eye that's never happened before. A talent slot. Actually filled in. I about drop my jaw. Talents are supposed to be rare, reserved for legendary units or exceptional elite tier ones, not something that shows up this early without any special item boosting it. But there it is, plain as day, godlike comprehension. Turns out my boy's just built different. Always was scary smart even before this, so somewhere deep down I'm not that shocked, just amazed it happened this fast, with 0 outside help. The talent means he understands literally anything almost instantly. Suddenly a lot of his past behavior makes total sense. How he could always half understand Minghai and Hualing despite them speaking different languages entirely. Now, apparently, he understands them completely, and given time, he could probably even learn to speak their language back. He starts testing his new limits immediately, manifesting raw energy directly from his palm without needing his weapon or a named skill first, something that used to require intermediate steps. He mentions if his reserves were stronger, he could probably form actual energy wings and fly like Yu. Ambitious. I ask what he's up to, and he tells me he's just running diagnostics on his new self. Fair enough. I let him work. His new skill turns out to be a supercharged version of Minghai's charge attack. Same concept, way more damage behind it. I can't help noticing the resemblance to some old game character abilities from back home. Stab, launch, charge, sweep, like watching a legendary champion kit come to life piece by piece. Testing him against Minghai afterward is basically a one-sided showcase. Reach advantage, tactical superiority, energy control, and now genius-level comprehension all stacked together means Minghai simply can't keep up anymore, no matter how hard he tries to close the distance. Every attempt gets countered, punished, or completely read before it lands. My top general just became something else entirely. Minghai finally taps out, plopping down on the ground and waving his arms in surrender. Can't even land a hit, no point continuing. Xia Yuan looks thoroughly satisfied with himself, clearly enjoying his new upgrade a little too much after yesterday's beatdown. I'm honestly stunned watching this whole thing unfold. Xia Yuan basically leveled up into an entirely different fighter overnight. Then Yu swoops in for a landing nearby, with Hualing perched happily on her back, practically glowing with excitement. She flies straight to me the second she spots me. "Where have you been, you little troublemaker?" I ask, scooping her up and rubbing her head. Through her usual buzzing and gesturing, translated by Xia Yuan, I learned she just got carried away having fun on her first flight and accidentally wandered too far. But she didn't come back empty-handed. She spotted a massive goblin presence way out west, past that old camp we cleared, more than 10 kilometers out. More goblins. Great. At least it's far enough away that I don't need to panic immediately. That reminds me of the mysterious document I picked up from the goblin camp, so I hand it to Xia Yuan to see if his new genius brain can decode it. He studies it carefully but admits defeat. Apparently his comprehension skill lets him understand things demonstrated to him, not conjure entirely unknown languages out of thin air. Fair enough, that would be a bit much even for him. I file the paper away for later just in case, then turn back to Hualing, telling her no more long-distance joyrides, short flights around the territory only. She looks briefly crushed until I add she's still allowed to ride in you locally, which brings her smile right back. As a reward for the useful intel, I offer her another evolution, and she practically short-circuits with joy, zooming around me in excited circles until I have to ask her to hold still long enough to actually receive it. While she transforms, I think back to everything I read online yesterday about talents. Apparently mine isn't unique. Other lords have their own too, some born with them like me, most, gaining them through rare items or special circumstances instead. There are personal talents and group talents, some ridiculously powerful, like one that boosts an entire army's overall tier once it's formed properly. Terrifying stuff if someone actually pulls that off. Interestingly, nothing on the forums matches anything like my evolution power directly, the closest equivalent being rare evolution stones that can upgrade a single unit, though far more limited and expensive than what I've got. Those stones just boost quality without changing gear, unlike my method which comes with a full outfit upgrade included. I also stumbled on a hilarious cautionary tale. Some poor lord spent 3 of those precious stones evolving a fairy, hoping for a hidden gem, only to discover fairies apparently stay weak no matter how far you push them. The guy apparently swore off, diamond in the rough, theories forever after that. I laughed so hard reading it I nearly fell out of my chair. Hualing comes out of her evolution looking mostly the same, except her little flower bud finally blooms into a full flower, and her outfit shifts into something woven from actual petals. She's gotten her growth skill just like I expected from reading up on it, and testing it in the fields confirms it stacks right on top of the farmland's natural speed boost, cutting the wait time on our fruit seeds down by nearly half. I get genuinely fired up about this, ranting a little about how unfair it is that fairies got labeled the weakest rare unit ever, when clearly it's just because nobody else has a cheap power to actually make use of them properly. I immediately plant another batch of seeds in a second field just to capitalize on the discovery. Except reality humbles me fast. Turns out her growth effect only lasts 2 hours per cast, and covering a full field takes several uses, which drains her fast, since she can only manage a handful of casts before needing rest. So realistically, I'm only getting a few hours of boosted growth per day out of her right now. Oh, there's the weakest rare unit, reputation making sense again. She deflates a little seeing my disappointed math out loud, so I quickly backpedal and reassure her she's doing amazing for her level, then sweeten the deal by promising to recruit her some fairy friends once Xia Yuan and Minghai get back from patrol. That cheers her right up, and by midday, my 2 lieutenants return with a light haul of orbs. I take a squad to the exchange scale and trade everything into militia and fairy orbs, gambling a little on my food supply, holding steady with a few extra mouths to feed. Back home, I recruit the new units, hand-walling her promised squad of fairy recruits, evolve one immediately, and name her Hua Wu, and put Hualing officially in charge of managing the whole fairy division going forward. Their job now is keeping those fields boosted so we never run short on food again. After lunch and a short rest, I called Xia Yuan and Minghai together. With the undead army now massively upgraded, I've decided today's the day. We're finally taking down the corruption route for good. Minghai gets to lead as main assault force this time, with Xia Yuan backing him up in support. Minghai lights up at getting his moment to shine after always playing second fiddle. Xia Yuan, meanwhile, takes it in total stride. He's never been the competitive type, and given how much stronger Minghai's undead legion has grown compared to his own human squad, the choice makes complete sense to him. Besides, Minghai's basically family at this point, so his happiness is good enough for Xia Yuan. With orders given, I gather essentially my entire army, every unit except the fairy squad managing the farm and a skeleton crew left guarding the base, and march out with everything I've got, Yu included, ready to finally wipe this corruption problem off the map for good. Looking at my huge army marching behind me, I feel pretty unstoppable. Probably no other new lord out there could match this. Checking the leaderboard confirms it. First place. Chat's already buzzing about it, and I let myself enjoy the moment, grinning like an idiot. The march starts quiet since Minghai already swept this area once before, but the noise from this many bodies eventually draws in swarms of monsters anyway. Doesn't matter, my army chews through the 2-star crowd like weeds, and even the occasional hyena brute gets torn apart fast under group pressure. My weaker skeletons can only manage a short burst of energy with their heavy slash, nothing like Minghai's full-range crescent blast, even after training with him for over an hour. It really drives home just how far ahead my top 2 units are compared to everyone else. Meanwhile, Xia Yuan uses the fight to experiment more with his energy control, turning his spear tip into a spinning drill for extra penetration, stretching his reach by projecting energy outward like an extended blade, even shaping it into something resembling a great blade wrapped around his weapon. He keeps it light though, careful not to burn through his limited reserves before the real fight even starts, grumbling about wishing he had infinite energy to play with. I'm too busy grinning at the flood of loot pouring in from every kill to worry about his complaints. Turns out fighting really is the best way to fund an army. The deeper we push, the more hyena brutes show up, some even hitting tier 2, but between Xia Yuan, Minghai, and my 5 rare tier skeletons, nothing slows us down for long. Eventually the trees around us are basically dead husks, and I know we're close. I wish I had the observation stone out here to scout ahead through Yu, but that tech only works back at base. So I trust my gut instead, following the densest concentration of monsters until I finally spot it, and immediately regret underestimating this thing. Standing guard are over a dozen hyena brutes, 3 of them full tier 2, plus a mess of 2-star monsters scattered around. And behind all of them, towering at over 2 meters, stands something clearly boss tier, jet black, unarmed, radiating menace even from a distance. Tier 2, rare quality. My gut screams retreat, but retreat isn't really an option anymore. We're already way too loud, way too visible, and the horde's already noticed us and started charging. I snap into commander mode fast, assigning Xia Yuan and Minghai together against the big boss, splitting my rare tier skeletons into pairs against each tier 2 hyena brute, grouping up my mid-tier units in 3s and 4s against the remaining hyenas, and letting everyone else handle the general monster swarm. Everyone scrambles into position without hesitation. I grab my shield and clutch my one-use magic scroll tight, keeping Yu close as my last line of defense since literally every other unit is now committed to the fight ahead. Yu snaps into a fighting stance the second I give the order, and even with her low smarts, watching her ready herself gives me a little confidence. She's still a 3-star unit after all, even if she's young. Xia Yuan and Minghai bolt straight for the big black boss the moment I finish barking orders. No wasted words between them. Xia Yuan mutters something short, Minghai catches his meaning with a single glance, and immediately shifts his shield to his right hand, charging straight through the horde like a wrecking ball, sending lesser monsters flying left and right. Anything that survives gets flattened again by Qiangyun's follow-up charge before it can recover. Minghai slams into the boss with his shield wrapped in dark energy, but right before impact, he twists mid-charge, dodging a swipe from the boss's blood-red claws, and instead lands a brutal uppercut with the shield that sends the massive hyena airborne. That's Qiangyun's cue. He leaps off Minghai's momentum, spears spinning with drilling energy, and skewers the beast clean through the chest midair. For a second, it looks over. Then the thing just gets back up, fully impaled, missing chunks of flesh and bone through a hole you could see daylight through, and it stands right back up like nothing happened, swinging both claws at them like it's barely inconvenienced. Qiangyun and Minghai barely dodge in time, staring at this monstrosity in genuine disbelief. They've seen corrupted monsters shrug off missing limbs before, sure, but this thing survived a literal hole through its heart and kept fighting like it stubbed its toe. It doesn't give them time to process. It lunges at Minghai, who barely blocks with his shield in time. The impact still sends him skidding back several feet, leaving deep gouges across his prized shield. Furious about the damage to his gear, Minghai fires back an angry slash of dark energy, which collides with the boss's own crimson blast. His gets shattered instantly, while the enemies continue straight toward him. Both of them realize fast, raw power isn't winning this fight. Even combined, their energy output can't match this thing, and going toe-to-toe physically means fighting something stronger, tougher, and apparently regenerating on top of it. After several exchanges, Qiangyun swears he can feel the beast getting stronger the longer the fight drags on. It's getting worse the longer this goes, he warns Minghai, and Minghai agrees. He's feeling it too. But looking around, everyone else is locked in their own desperate fights, nobody free to help. Qiangyun tells Minghai to hold the line while he thinks, and Minghai steps up the pressure, drawing more of the boss's attention while Qiangyun's brain works overtime. Eventually, an idea forms. Risky, untested, but maybe their only real shot at ending this before it snowballs completely out of control. Remember that energy fusion test from last night? Qiangyun asks, stepping back in to share the load. Minghai definitely remembers. He nearly wrecked his own weapon trying it. Minghai catches on instantly to what Qiangyun's suggesting. Qiangyun confirms it's their best shot, then retreats out of the boss's range and holds his weapon out toward Minghai. Without a word, Minghai drops his sword and grabs the spear shaft, channeling energy into it while Qiangyun handles control and Minghai keeps feeding raw power. With Qiangyun fully disengaged, Minghai suddenly has to face the boss alone while also channeling energy through the weapon between them, forcing him to eat several hits he'd normally dodge, blocking with pure grit instead. He can multitask, but barely, and it shows. Dark energy starts crawling up the spear as Qiangyun channels his own power into the mix. And the moment the two energies touch, they explode into violent friction, threatening to detonate right there in his hands. Qiangyun forces himself to stay calm despite never having attempted this mid-combat before, slowly working to blend the volatile mix through sheer focus and the razor-sharp instincts his talent gives him. He tells Minghai to just keep the power flowing and let him handle the rest, and Minghai obeys completely, refocusing entirely on defense while his hand stays locked on the shaft feeding energy. Slowly, painfully, the two conflicting energies start merging under Qiangyun's control. But the boss doesn't let up. Another swipe tears deep into Minghai's shield, and the impact rattles him down to the bone, literally. He's hanging on by threads. Almost there. Hold on, Qiangyun calls out, and something in Minghai's soul fire flares back to life, giving him one more burst of strength to endure. His shield, unfortunately, doesn't get the same boost. The boss's next strike shatters straight through it, tearing apart both the shield and part of Minghai's own arm bones in the process. Painful, sure, but for a skeleton, more inconvenience than injury. Seeing this, Qiangyun realizes they're out of time. He makes the call, tells Minghai to pump everything he's got into the fusion, no holding back. That's exactly when the whole thing spirals out of control. The energies react violently, way beyond what Qiangyun can manage anymore. Run now, he shouts. Minghai doesn't need telling twice. He can feel death radiating off the weapon himself. He lets go and sprints clear, and the instant his hand leaves the shaft, Qiangyun hurls the weapon straight at the boss using his throwing skill, immediately grabbing Minghai with a charge attack and dragging them both away from the blast zone. The mindless boss, true to form, doesn't dodge the incoming weapon at all, just swings to attack it head-on. The moment contact happens, the three swirling energies lose all stability and detonate in one massive explosion. The shockwave knocks both Xia Yuan and Minghai flat on their backs. Watching from a distance, I nearly have a heart attack seeing the blast go off, frantically checking my unit list to confirm they're both still alive. Thankfully, they are. Once the smoke clears and Xia Yuan and Minghai pick themselves up, they stare at what's left. A crater several meters wide sits where the boss used to stand, with pieces of the hyena brute scattered across the clearing. Dead. Extremely, thoroughly dead. Xia Yuan frowns at the crater, admitting the blast was way stronger than he calculated. Should have just wounded the thing badly, not obliterated it. Minghai barely registers that, too busy sprinting to check on his sword, since he'd already lost his beloved shield and refuses to lose his second weapon too. He finds it fine and immediately cheers up. Xia Yuan stares at his own broken weapon with quiet heartbreak. Sure, it wasn't his beloved spear, but it was still his only weapon, and now it's snapped into twisted pieces. With the boss confirmed dead, both of them rush to help the others, though their energy reserves are completely drained after that stunt. Minghai still has his sword to fall back on, but Xia Yuan's left fighting barehanded, which drops him embarrassingly close to the effectiveness of a regular spearman until he borrows a spare weapon from one of his troops. Slowly but surely, with the two of them back in the fight, my side turns the tide completely, and we clear out every remaining monster in the area. The battle's finally over. Xia Yuan pulls his borrowed spear free from one last kill, covered head to toe in monster blood, and lets himself breathe for the first time in what feels like forever. Toughest fight of his life, hands down. Watching the aftermath, guilt hits me hard. 3 spearmen dead, 5 skeleton warriors gone, plenty more wounded. Small numbers in the grand scheme, sure, but it never had to happen. I got cocky after a few easy wins and pushed for today instead of waiting and building up more first. I muttered to myself about forgetting my own safety first philosophy the moment things started going well, then quietly get everyone organized. Healthy units clearing the field, dust going straight to the injured. Once things settle, I finally approach the corruption route itself. Small, still young according to what I've read, just twisted red-black tendrils spreading unnatural energy into the ground around it. Studying it up close, I suddenly feel this strange, aggressive urge to fight bubbling up inside me, until the mark on my hand lights up and instantly snuffs the feeling out. Creepy. Apparently, this thing messes with heads just by existing nearby. Not wanting to push my luck testing that theory further, I hold my marked hand over the root and let it activate. Warm golden light bursts out, wrapping around both my hand and the corrupted plant, and after about a minute, the whole thing simply dissolves into nothing. Purified. Job done. Rewards drop immediately. Soul crystal fragments, an exceptional tier resource dungeon token, a special hero trial certificate, and a special tournament teleport scroll. The item tiers work just like unit tiers, common through legendary. Except, special sits completely outside that scale, its value swinging wildly depending on what you actually do with it. The hero certificate could be worth more than a legendary item if the unit passes, or completely worthless if they fail. Same logic applies to the tournament scroll, pure potential, entirely dependent on performance. Checking the countdown on the tournament scroll confirms exactly what the forums said. It activates on day 16, right on schedule. I tuck it away safely and turn my attention to the hero certificate instead, already deciding in my head, Xia Yuan's getting this one. Sure, Minghai's earned plenty too, but Xia Yuan's the one with an actual awakened talent, so it feels like the obvious call. Just not the right time or place to use it yet. That decision can wait. Then there's the resource dungeon token. Apparently, these hidden pocket dimensions are basically jackpots, offering everything from combat trials to resource farms to rare recruitment zones. Some exist permanently, treasured possessions passed around and shared even within alliances as a member perk, while others are temporary, appearing briefly before vanishing forever. The dangerous, mysterious kind, probably similar to whatever awaits at that tournament event. I put away the dungeon token and look at those 10 crystal fragments, each one worth a whole stack of dust, way more valuable than the loose dust I usually collect. Turns out I can't just combine dust myself to make these. They only come from certain sources until I become a full lord. Watching Minghai staring quietly at his fallen skeleton comrade takes the edge off my good mood fast. I go over and sit with him for a bit. Once Xiangyun finishes gathering loot with the healthy troops, I have everyone carry our dead back home for a proper burial. The walk back is quiet, heavier than usual. Home again, I find a decent spot and lay the fallen spearmen and skeletons to rest properly. After a short break, I finally sort through today's haul. Most of it's junk. Basic gear, resource pouches that spit out nothing exciting, same old crystals, and dried meat I've seen 100 times. Common tier stuff just isn't worth getting excited over anymore. Dust-wise though, I hit my biggest single haul ever, a genuinely huge pile. On top of that, 9 recruitment orbs, mostly 2-star this time instead of the usual 1-star flood, which makes sense given how many tougher monsters we fought today. 1 orb is even 3-star. First time I've ever seen a corrupted monster drop something that high. Doing the math, trading that 3-star orb through the exchange scale nets a decent pile of 1-star orbs, though I know I'm taking a loss compared to actual market value. Doesn't matter. Building my numbers matters more right now than chasing perfect trade value. A dozen weak units racking up evolution points daily beats 1 strong unit sitting pretty. The real prize is a new blueprint, a thunder tower, basically the arrow tower's magic-based cousin, hitting enemies with lightning instead of arrows. I decide to build it on the west side, since the east threat's finally cleared, but Hualing's earlier scouting report about goblins out west still nags at me. Better safe than sorry. Since I need to swing by the exchange scale anyway, I round up some healthy troops for the trip, glancing over at Minghai still standing quietly by the burial site, deep in conversation with Xiangyun. I decide not to bother them with something this minor. Just as I start walking, Xiangyun jogs up and asks to tag along, and I agree without much thought. Behind us, Minghai stays by the graves, staring at dark energy flickering in his palm, turning over something Xiangyun told him earlier, some idea about maybe, someday, learning to bring the dead back. He has no clue if he's actually capable of something like that. But trusting his brother's belief in him is enough for now. Instead of spiraling over impossible questions, he settles down and gets back to the basics, absorbing dust, healing up, growing stronger. Because at the end of the day, strength solves more problems than worrying ever will. I compliment Xiangyun on figuring out my plan just from a passing comment I made earlier, genuinely impressed by how sharp he's gotten. He admits, a little sheepish, that he actually invited himself along this time, since he'd expected me to bring him automatically and got quietly disappointed when I didn't. His real reason for tagging along, though, is wanting to study magic firsthand. I warn him gently not to get his hopes up. Magic buildings and actual magic aren't the same thing, and honestly I still don't understand half the tech in my own base. He takes it in stride, having already failed to figure out how my warehouse shrinks logs or why the bathhouse produces endless water. Doesn't stop him from wanting to try anyway. He made a promise to Minghai, after all, and he intends to keep it. We find a good spot about 500 meters from base, close enough to double as the starting point for something I've been putting off, building an actual defensive wall. Since clearing out the forest around us has left plenty of open space, I figure it's finally time. Originally, I wanted to wall off a full kilometer radius, but doing the math on materials made that dream painfully unrealistic anytime soon. So I scale it down to a half-kilometer radius instead, planning to build it in batches over the next several days, rather than waiting for a perfect stockpile. First, though, the tower. I plant the blueprint and watch the Thunder Tower rise, a stone structure crowned with a glowing purple crystal, noticeably shorter range than the Arrow Tower, but clearly packing more punch per hit. Testing it out, a bolt of lightning cracks down into the grass, leaving a small crater behind. Xiangyun studies the damage and estimates it hits about as hard as that Tier 2 Hyena boss's energy claw attack, which, compared to my upgraded Arrow Tower, makes this thing significantly stronger per shot. The catch reveals itself fast though, a 30-second cooldown between blasts. Balances out nicely against the Arrow Tower's limited ammo problem, I suppose. Every building's got its trade-off. With the tower up, I move on to the wall itself. Each section is fairly cheap material-wise, but multiplied out across a full kilometer loop, the total cost balloons into thousands of stone and dust, plus walls, like my manor, don't even count toward my leaderboard score, which honestly feels like the system deliberately discouraging people from padding their rank with cheap fortifications. I've got plenty of dust banked, but stone's still catching up, so I settle on building about 100 wall sections a day, figuring roughly 10 days to finish the whole loop. Placing the first ghost outline of wall, I quickly realized the logistics are a little annoying since the storage building's several hundred meters away, meaning someone's got to keep hauling stone back and forth. Good thing I've got an endless supply of expendable labor for exactly that kind of job. I get the wall crews going and dump dust into the framework, then finally take a breather while 100 sections of wall build simultaneously. Thank God for parallel construction, or this would have taken forever. While that's baking, I swing by the exchange scale for another round of trades, picking up a fresh batch of militia and skeleton orbs. Back at the tower, Xia Yuan flags me down with bad news. The thunder towers completely stopped working. Turns out after 10 straight minutes of him firing it off for testing, the crystal on top just went dark and refused to fire again, cooldown or not. Took about half an hour before it lit back up on its own. Turns out this thing has a hidden battery limit on top of its regular cooldown. Burned through it too fast, and it needs a proper recharge. No dust required this time at least. Fair trade-off, really, since even the arrow tower needs ammo eventually. Once the first wall section finishes, I have Xia Yuan test its strength, and it holds up fine against my upgraded arrow tower shots. Good enough for keeping out weaker wildlife, which is really all I need it for. My actual defense still comes from my army, not concrete. Back home, I recruit everything I traded for and evolve the whole batch immediately, muttering to myself that opportunities like this, recruiting in bulk right after clearing a corruption zone, probably won't come around much longer. Then I finally crack open that dungeon token. A stone archway rises near the altar, covered in symbols I can't read, and the info reveals it as a soul dust dungeon, resetting weekly. I'm thrilled. Resource dungeons vary wildly in value, and dust happens to double as currency, making this one of the better outcomes I could have pulled. I touch the frame, the symbols light up, and a portal forms. I call Minghai over, since Xia Yuan's still busy with his tower research, and send him in first with a small squad, given how low risk this dungeon's supposed to be. He steps through and vanishes instantly. I check on him through my status panel to confirm he's fine before following myself. Stepping through feels like a much smoother ride than Luo Ge's teleportation trick. Barely a flicker of weightlessness before I'm standing in a completely different place. Minghai's already looking around, clearly disoriented by the sudden change in scenery. I catch up to him just behind the portal and take stock of our surroundings. An endless, barren plain, nothing but dirt, gravel, and scattered rocks stretching to the horizon. Not a single blade of grass in sight. Wait, where's all the dust supposed to be?